Isn't it public knowledge who voted for what and who didn't?
Well, they don't vote for it. This is the first step to get a variance.
Okay.
So you're going to Ireland, huh?
I thought somebody already denied that. No?
Well, Matt did. I mean, they come in, ask for something. If it doesn't comply with the strict rules.
And that's when Matt.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I've seen you.
No, it's the last one.
But yeah, that's the
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Siri, power off.
Okay. So wow. What does knowing who voted for what or supports what help us? Or help the...
He just wants to be known that it wasn't, if they come in and say, oh, this whole township's against it, he wants it to be known that it's not.
Yeah. There's a lot of people here again tonight.
Yeah.
we didn't need to sign any of that stuff.
Yes, I think so. But
email to us.
Just additional information.
This is my third meeting.
Oh, okay.
You'll be here for sheets, right?
Yes.
So
I just made sure to print it out.
Yeah.
he just asked how this usually goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll ask him. You can ask him.
I mean, this is your show. Usually the way it works, I ask all the questions, or a particular way this, you ask me at the end if I have any questions.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah. All right. Good. Also, this is up to you. State your name.
Yes.
And you're welcome to state your address, but you want to bring it.
Oh,
You can't, it's a violation of people's, they feel intimidated by being able to address them publicly. So if anybody ever does, or president, you can tell them to come on up.
I've always asked for name and address, because that's how I was taught originally.
Yeah. Or, yeah, you should, they can bring it up without saying it.
Yeah, I think he's saying you can ask what you have to say if you feel. You have to say if you feel like you want to.
Well, I guess not tonight, yeah, but somebody ever would call.
Okay.
Say, just come on up and write it down and give it to me.
Okay. Because it's helpful knowing where in relationship they are,
Absolutely, they have an interest in something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, you should ask him.
Yes. Okay, good evening. Before we start, I'd like to make sure everyone's signed in for meeting in the back entrances of the room. If you've not, please do so. It must be on the record. I'm Robert Tanner. The other board members tonight are Richard Hauk and Charles Fott. I'd like to introduce the following members. We have Matthew Puz, Zoning and Development Officer, Julie Maggio, Assistant Zoning and Development Officer, Jeremy Toman, Board Solicitor, and we have two board solicitors this evening. We will go over that engagement letter for Mr. Joel Snavely as well in a moment. We also have Tamara Doxey, court reporter. After the presentation by the appellant, the board will hear from those in question of the appeal, those in favor, and those opposed. Any documents or evidence that is presented must be kept for a period of 60 days for our records. After all presentations are made, the board will recess. We'll then reconvene and make our decisions. The board has 45 days to render a decision, but they are often made this evening. If you do not care to wait for a decision, you may call the zoning office in the morning after 8:30 a.m. I'd now ask that everyone please stand to be sworn in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please answer, I do. Okay, a couple of housekeeping items first. First one is with the absence of Scott Calhoun, nominating Richard Hauk and Charles Fott as voting members for tonight from alternate status. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
So moved. We need to vote for the approval of an engagement letter for Quinn, Busick, Lemus, Tui, and Croto to represent Mill Creek Township Zoning Hearing Board, appeal number 25-5 and 25-09. Attorney Toman has conflicts on both of those, so we have alternate counsel for the first and fifth appeals. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the engagement letter, Mr. Joel Snavely. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Just speak a little louder in here.
Second the motion. Motion.
All in favor? Aye. So moved. Appeal number 25-05, Bill Patterson, for property located at 5160 Wolf Road, seeking a height variance for an accessory structure in the R1 Single Family Residential District. Whoever's going to present on this, please come to the podium and state your name and address.
Hello, Kelly Richter of Michael.
Just pull the mic a little closer.
Sorry about that. Hello, Kelly Richter of Michael Grab Architect. I am representing Bill and Ellen Patterson at 5160 Wolf Road, requesting an additional 6 height of variance for the proposed accessory structure. I don't know if you have my, can I pass these out?
Yeah, can you pull it closer just a little bit, like this, maybe the base of it?
Pull the
Or Matt,
microphone
can you help?
towards
Oh, there you go.
Is that better?
Yeah, much.
Okay. Okay, so I have some handouts for you. Is that okay to pass
Yeah,
out?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So, as I mentioned, Kelly Richter, the architectural designer for this proposed project. And I'm just going to walk you through a few different diagrams that I created demonstrating the unique site constraints that are leading to us requesting an additional 6 feet for this accessory structure. So if you take a look, I'm going to start with the original plot plan. So this area was originally owned by George Griswold and was later subdivided into 3 separate parcels for his 3 children. As you can see, the parcel to the west, 50, had 2 single-family homes. The parcel to the east had 1, and the parcel to the south at 5150 had 1. Because the parcel to the south did not have property along the lakefront, he enacted a view corridor, preserving the views from that original home to the lake between house 5160 and 5152. Okay, so if you flip to your next page. So when the Pattersons bought this property, they decided to build a single-family home at the westernmost part of the property. And that was because it was the most constructible at that time, and avoiding that view corridor that we understood to be pretty much directly from that house to the lake. I believe some of you went to the site, but later we'll walk through some images. But although this is a large 12-acre property, there's a lot of topography, ravines, bluff setbacks, hillsides that make this site unique and have a lot of constraints. So along the whole western side of the property, there's a pretty steep ravine. Obviously to the north, there is that 50-foot setback from the DEP for bluff management. And then to the east of the existing single-family home constructed in 2012, you'll see the outline of a 20-foot grade change. So it's almost like 2 separate properties, right? You have the property to the east that is 20 feet lower, the property to the west. And then, highlighted in yellow, is that view corridor that we have to respect given the deed. Okay, so if you flip to your next page, I am showing the outline of our proposed, give or take, 3,000 square foot accessory structure. And since the view corridor that was outlined in the deed was not like strategically outlined on a site plan or a property map, we chose to use the existing 2-story structure that was historically there as our easternmost guideline for where we could construct upon. Obviously, this is a lakefront property, so we tried to use as much program along the lake as possible until we got to that western existing hillside. So this program is a recreational space, which requires a lot of height and large area of a footprint.
What was the height of the existing building? Do you have that data?
You know, we don't. I did check with the Hagen History Center, and we couldn't find it out. I do know that it was 2,000 square feet and that it was a 2-story home.
Okay.
Yep. Again, we had a lot of program that we were trying to fit into this recreational accessory building and trying to stay within this constraints of the site. So knowing that we had to preserve this view corridor and be respectful to our neighbors, the Pattersons chose to move part of the program to the south of the main area of the structure, which unintentionally drove up the ridge line an additional 6 feet to a 26 feet tall. So if you go to your next page, obviously we want to be respectful to our neighbors, but we also felt that this was contextual to the remaining, or the surrounding properties. So the property to the south has an existing 1923 barn that is 2 stories and 27 feet tall, directly south of our proposed structure. And then the property to the east at 5152 built a 2-story, 26-foot tall structure back in 2013. They were granted a 14-foot height variance in 2011 by Mill Creek Township, which allowed them to build up to 30 feet tall. As you can see, they only built a structure that was 26 feet tall, but they were granted that additional 14 feet to a 16-foot tall garage. So our proposal would be pretty contextual with the surrounding structures. So if you keep moving through your packet, I'm just going to walk you through the site with a few images so you can see the context of the existing topography. So the first image is standing in the center of that upper 20-foot portion of the existing site. As you can see the Patterson's house 20 feet below. Like, you can just see the ridge line pretty much at the top of those treetops. I'm also showing the eastern and western stakes. It's a little hard to see again because it's such a small photo. And then that view corridor that we are trying to preserve for the house to the south. So the image below is showing the 26-foot tall 2-story garage to the east and the barn to the west at 27 feet that was original to that property, as well as the existing home at 5160 Wolf Road, which we are trying not to encroach upon. If you move further, this is moving further west on your next sheet. So this is the building site, and I'm showing the westernmost stake. So as you can see, that's the Patterson's existing single-family home, and you can see that pretty drastic hillside that we are trying to build as close up to as we can. If we went any further, it would require some pretty serious engineering and retention to be able to support a structure. So your next sheet shows a survey from Sanford. This was actually approved by Mill Creek Township for our stormwater management. So all of the stormwater is being tied into a new system going down to the lake. But as you can see, this further demonstrates the extreme topographical changes of this site, with the ravine to the west, the lake bluff to the north, and then that 20-foot grade change between the existing home and the proposed accessory structure. So again, even though this is a large parcel, we don't have that much constructible space. So these next series of images are just showing what we are proposing. So this is an elevation from the north, and it is showing the north elevation in context with the existing home 20 feet below, the 2-story barn at 27 feet to the south, and the newer 2013 26-foot detached garage to the east, and that view corridor that we're trying to stay, to be cognizant of. So the next 2 slides are the south and east elevations. I'm sure, as you could see, the existing home is a shingle-style home in a traditional nature, which we were trying to emulate and duplicate the style and nature of of that architecture. So if you take a look at the east elevation, you'll see why we had to ask for a little bit more height. The existing ridge line of the home is an east-west roof that's a 10/12 pitch with 4/12 dormers and a 7/12 garage. Knowing that this was going to be a large structure, we chose to go with the shallower 7/12 roof pitch because we did need some height within that program space. And then again, we relocated some of the program to the south of that ridge line, which allowed us to drop that roof line down to a 3.5 pitch to span that 60-foot depth. So overall, we are requesting, again, just a little bit of a height variance in order to be cognizant of the neighbors' views as well as contextual to the surrounding accessory structures. So I don't know if you have any questions or need clarification.
So we're listing this as an accessory building. I don't see a floor plan. Does it classify, Matt, have you reviewed the plans? Does it classify as an accessory building? There's not a dwelling unit or things like that?
Correct. I believe it's for like recreation. Just, I guess.
I'm sorry, what?
It's for recreation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's no cooking or,
No.
okay, just want to make sure it falls underneath that before we even take it further.
Yep. No, it's a true recreation building, which also requires height, as you know. That was also a lot of the exterior design. So, those shed dormers provide natural light and ventilation into the main northern area of that building. So that was all a part of our design.
Okay.
Is there a reason why it just can't be the same height all the way across what the extra, I don't know, 8 feet is, or maybe 8 feet plus? Because I'm talking about this in this diagram here, this part here. What is the necessity for the height here? Why can't it just be straight across the whole way?
So that's because the depth of that structure is, I have a floor plan if you just need to see a floor plan. But basically,
And then I guess my follow-up before that, if it's
Sure.
because of the depth, why can't they make the depth back further so that it wouldn't have to be that? What is the necessity for the height? And if it's too short, that it makes it go higher, why can't they make it go deeper so that it's not so high?
so we intentionally chose to relocate part of the program to the south of the main structure. So if you look at the outline, you'll see there's a north-south sort of wing, and then there's an east-west wing. So that lower roof that you're talking about is that east-western wing, and that depth is about 40 feet deep. So that's why that roof is at 18 feet, right? So a 7/12 pitch is able to be at 18 feet to be contextual to the existing home. We intentionally moved some of the program that was intended to be at the east of the building, so we were basically going to duplicate this wing and put it to the east, but we were then impeding on this view corridor for this neighbor at 5150. So knowing that there were tall accessory structures around this site, we chose to relocate it to the south of the main structure since we needed circulation between those two spaces, which drove up the roof line. So this depth is about 60 feet deep. So that's why that ridge line grew an additional 6 feet.
Okay, and then you mentioned that the view corridor, there was limited information?
Yep, it was just basically outlined on the deed. So we weren't given a site plan or like a parcel plan that mapped it out. It was just written out in the deed for the Pattersons, and they wanted to be cognizant of that.
Okay.
So we felt locating the eastern edge of the structure at the original two-story home would suffice.
Okay. Do you have anything?
Now, Pennsylvania law sets forth 5 criteria, along with the Mill Creek Township ordinance, that must be met before we grant a dimensional variance. The presentation is very nice. Are you going to present as to why the 5 criteria under the Mill Creek Township ordinance and Pennsylvania law are met here?
I believe so. I think that, as I stated, it's contextual to the site, as in we are limited to the buildable area remaining on this site. So that is the unique constraint that we have to work within.
When Mr. Patterson bought the property from the Griswold, he was aware, right, of the topography here, correct?
He was, yep.
And since it's been bought, there's been no change in the land unforeseen. For example, there's not been a mudslide, a landslide, the slope, the hills, nothing has changed since he bought it, right?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. And do you think perhaps an argument could be made here, if there is a hardship, it's kind of self-created? He simply wants to have a building at a certain height.
Well, we designed it, again, to be cognizant of the neighbors. So that's what drove up the height, was we increased the depth of the structure to accommodate the views to the neighbors, to preserve their lake views. So you could say that it was self-imposed, but it's also being respectable to the surrounding community.
Now, again, you correct me if I'm wrong. If I can nutshell this, there's no reason this building can't be built at a lower height. It's simply the landowner wants a better view. Isn't that really, if you nutshell this?
I would actually not say that's true, because we relocated program to the south of the structure and sacrificed lake views to part of the program, which drove up the roof. So we actually accommodate, if you have property on the lake, you want to prioritize that within every space of whatever you're building. But we sacrificed part of the program to go to the south in order to be cognizant and not build further west, preserving the views and this open space for the surrounding neighbors.
But it could be built lower, correct? Right?
I don't think it could. I think that we would have to get rid of that program to the south.
Well, how about just, keep it where it is and keep it within the 20-foot height requirement? You could do that, right?
I don't think that we can with the given program that we're trying to achieve.
Well, that's kind of a bootstrap, though, right? Because you want something, therefore you need it. But you don't really need it, though, right?
I'm not quite sure how to answer that. It's not my building, but I did design it. And we, again, we're trying to be cognizant of the site constraints, being respectable to the neighbors, but also being contextual to the existing home.
Okay.
Have you received a copy of the letter from the Walkers at 5150?
I have not.
Just received it today, and they have some concerns. Is anyone going to be presenting on their behalf? Would I be able to state from this on their behalf?
You can read into the record, sure.
Sure. Okay, I'll read it. My name is Todd Walker. My wife, Kimlin Walker, and I are owners of a summer home located at 5150 Wolf Road, which lies directly south of a vacant Lake Erie waterfront property currently owned by Mr. William Bill Patterson. Yesterday, we discovered that Mr. Patterson is seeking an approval for a height variance for a proposed 40-foot by 40-foot gymnasium on his property, which you can, I don't know, is that the correct size?
That's part of the program, yeah. It's bigger than that, but
Okay. We are writing to formally express our opposition to the proposed construction, as the construction of such a building would likely infringe upon one or more of our 3 legally deeded Lakeview corridors and negatively impact the character and value of our property. So they are stating in here that there are 3 legally deeded Lakeview corridors. And what you said is you're only aware of 1.
I'm only aware of one, but when they bought their property, the house, that 2-story home was already there as well. So we are not taking away a view that was historically not there.
Okay.
So if you look at this diagram, the red is the original 2-story house. Unfortunately, I don't have images of it. I've tried.
Sure.
And that's where we're locating this new structure.
There are currently unresolved issues involving all 3 of our view corridors. See Exhibit A, which, according to them, I don't know if you'd like to take a look at this.
Sure.
There are 3 distinct corridors, 1, 2, 3 corridors that they're showing. I don't know where the information's from. Again, we just received it this afternoon. It's distinctly different from what you believe it to be. It would,
Yes, I don't know where they bought this because I have never seen this before.
sure.
Okay, got you.
And Matt Puzz, we don't know where that's from, do we?
No,
Okay. Going back. Most notably, view corridor number 1, which has been legally obstructed by Mr. Patterson when he built his main residence in 2011 to 2012. Although the deed which granted the view corridors allows for such obstruction, the servient tenement must grant a substitute right-of-way by deed at his expense. Since he built his main residence, no equivalent replacement has yet been implemented for some 13 years, despite our agreement in principle that corridor number 1 would be added to the west side of corridor number 3. And for those of you out there, the way this is shown is 1 is the westernmost corridor, 2 is the middle, and 3 is the easterly.
Do you need a copy of this?
I would like it if you don't mind.
So we're on the second paragraph, the last sentence of the second paragraph right now.
This replacement is essential for us as view corridor number 1 offered our most expansive and valuable lake view. The other 2 view corridors have also been recently compromised. Mr. Patterson installed fencing late last summer that obstructs view corridors 2 and 3. These fences not only limit the visibility of the lake, but also contradict the original intent of their easements, which is to preserve open, natural views of the lake from our home. This is evidenced by the fact that both parties agreed to include a highly defined tree schedule as an addendum to the original deed for the purpose preserving natural views and avoid future obstructions, including any other plantings other than what was listed on the schedule. So Exhibit C is the deed language. Goes into that in some detail. By way of background, we purchased our home in 2005 from Dorothy Griswold, widow of George Griswold, whose family once owned most of the Wolf Road property. At the time of the purchase, the property adjacent to ours, now owned by Mr. Patterson, was owned by George's brother, Ollie Griswold. That property included a historic guest cottage built around 1870, believed to be among the first structures in the Wolf Road area. Ollie held a driveway easement across our land to access that cottage, referred to the dwelling located at the top of the high bluff. Following Ollie's passing in 2010, Mr. Patterson purchased the property and proceeded to demolish both the main residence below and the guest cottage on the bluff. As someone I've known as a friend since grade school, he invited me to lunch to share his development plans. Mr. Patterson explained that he intended to place his new home in a location that would block view corridor number 1, one of our most important view corridor, offering a vista 3 times better than the other 2 view corridors combined, due to the elevation difference between the lower and upper properties. While the deed includes language requiring the servient tenement to relocate view rights, it also requires that any such change provides an equivalent substitute at the expense of the party initiating the change. Exhibit C. Legally, I agree he had the right to relocate the corridor, but practically, replacing such a unique view would be nearly impossible short of expanding the view corridors to cover the entire upper property. Not wanting to push the envelope and render his property undevelopable, we agreed in principle that view corridor number 1 would be replaced by expanding view corridor number 3 westward with the same width as view corridor 1, which by the way is 27.35 feet. That was my wife's line in the sand. I should note that she is a practicing land use attorney in Florida and an expert on these matters. Accordingly, we cannot support any construction or variance approval until it directly addresses the loss of view corridor number 1 and includes a mutually agreed upon replacement that is duly recorded. Likewise, the existing fence installations must be removed as they create physical and visual obstructions to the 2 view corridors. Obstructions that, like corridor number 1, require replacement. However, there is no additional property available to accommodate such replacements, making the preservation of the existing view corridors essential. It is also critical that the actual buildable area of the property be clearly defined before any construction, variance, or permit can be properly considered. At this juncture, we do not know there will be even enough room left to build a 40 by 40 building after all of Mr. Patterson's legal obligations to us are fulfilled. As an alternative, Kimlin and I are open to discussing 2 other potential resolutions with Mr. Patterson. Number 1, we would consider relinquishing view corridors 1 and 2 entirely if Mr. Patterson were to deed full ownership of view corridor to us, extending it as far as it reaches into the lake under his deed.
You do a corridor 3. You didn't say 3.
Oh, sorry, view corridor number 3 to us. Under this arrangement, he could retain most of his fenced area, and we would agree to a restrictive covenant not to build any structure on that portion of the property in perpetuity. Additionally, we would agree to allow an easement for overflow parking on corridor 3 for large gatherings, should his fenced space prove inadequate. And number 2, we would consider relinquishing view corridor number 1 if Mr. Patterson would voluntarily abandon his driveway easement located on our property to the dwelling, quote unquote, dwelling located on top of the high bluff, the new structure. Now that he has constructed a vehicular and pedestrian passageway between his lower and upper properties, which, as my land use attorney says, provides solid legal grounds for abandonment of this easement. We appreciate your consideration of our position and remain open to a constructive dialogue to find a resolution that respects both parties' rights and expectations. In the meantime, we respectfully request the board's variance decision be postponed until our easement issues have been resolved. Thank you. So obviously there's a lot at play here beyond the height of the building. And it seems to me like they offered a, at least an olive branch for a resolution.
Sure.
Obviously, I'm not asking you to answer on Mr. Patterson's behalf, and he's not here, correct?
Sorry?
He is not here, correct?
No, Grayson is his son.
Okay.
But I would imagine that he is not able to answer at this
Okay.
time.
Yeah, if you could come up and state your name and address. Thank you.
Hi there, Grayson Patterson, son of Bill Patterson, 5160 Wolf Road. Obviously, you guys have now been educated to some context regarding neighborly dispute. You gave Kelly is this what was provided? Simply put, the viewing rights that were given was, as Kelly outlined, original intent was the houses behind would have a view of the waterway. It is to prevent foliage growth. It does not prevent structures. That's one thing that's important that I'm sure is not included in here. And 2, it really only is protecting, as Kelly outlined, there's 3 corridors. They can be combined in any given manner. So originally it was 1, 2, 3, Bob, as you outlined, but all 3 can be squeezed together on one side or a combination thereof, as long as the same degrees of viewing are granted to Mr. Walker. So what Kelly outlined, where we position the building, the easterly edge being where a structure was pre-existing when Mr. Walker purchased his property, was kind of the safe space for all parties involved, and it still provides him the greatest viewing rights to the east side of our proposed structure in excess of what his foliage viewing rights are. Again, there's no protection against structures in this document, I guess you'd put it, that a father put in place for his children. So that's really a little bit more context to what was discussed. Jeremy, in your question about the building.
I'm not Jeremy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm Joel Snavely.
Joel, I'm sorry about that.
Jeremy's here, but I'm filling in for this one. Yeah.
Okay. Everything's a cost-benefit analysis. Because of the history of the neighbors, or this individual neighbor, we don't want to cause anything. We don't want to get you guys involved any more than you have to be. Given that we have the opportunity or the rights to build wider because the viewing corridors don't protect against the structure, we could, which would there effectively bring down the roof pitch. But we don't want to be that neighbor. So the decision was made to let's not push the boundaries with the viewing corridors any more than, as you can see, historically has been done, which effectively brought the building up 6 feet. That's all that was taking place.
Yeah, at least from my perspective, with all due respect to the Walkers, I'm glad, it's nice of you to address it. A lot of their concerns and complaints should be addressed to the Court of Common Pleas of Erie County. Because all we can do here as a limited jurisdiction zoning hearing board is decide whether or not it meets the criteria for a zoning ordinance to be granted. But I appreciate you trying to explain it.
Understood.
Yeah, in these cases,
And I agree with you.
yeah, in these cases, it's very difficult for us because now we're intermediary between two parties. Had these conversations been had between the two parties, and it sounds like there was some conversation back at the time of building the house, and that conversation ceased, according to them. We don't have, beyond not meeting the criteria for a variance, we have a neighbor who is vehemently against it, which makes for a very difficult situation for us to entertain that, especially with this information, because this information is, in my opinion, distinctly different than what's shown on the plans with the, I mean, I get that's a great proposed, possibly, viewing corridor, and that they're actually proposing something kind of like that, but they want deeded rights to it, which obviously that's not something I expect anyone but Mr. Patterson to answer, but that would be combining all three, but there's a process to combining all three.
Yeah, and I don't want you guys to feel like we're in the, we have to litigate this back and forth. That's between Mr. Walker and the Pattersons. Yeah. I will say the fence that was referenced, if everything he outlined is true, the fence wouldn't still be there. The fence is there. I know one of you, I think, had the opportunity to visit the property.
I did today.
Structures are permitted. That's all I can say to that.
What is your opinion based upon this Exhibit C?
With respect to the deeds?
With respect to structures within the...
Because it says no trees, but it doesn't say anything about buildings.
I think it's outside our purview
Yeah.
for us to be trying to interpret deeds
Understand.
and so forth.
Okay.
I don't think it's anything we should really be concerned about.
Understood.
Were any of these discussions a reference to the viewpoint of the proposed construction and between the between your, was it your parents that?
Correct.
Okay.
Bill Patterson is my father.
Yeah. So were there any memorandums to this effect, or is it just something they had sit down, talk, and?
Are you referencing what Mr. Walker's referenced, the original construction of the house?
There's a comment here that sounds like there was a conversation that went on prior to you doing what you're doing here, so that there was there a substantive understanding that something could be done, or was it just?
My understanding is because the way the viewing corridor document was written, as you can imagine, when Griswold Sr. drafted it, it was for his children, so I don't want to say it's a back of the napkin because it's somewhere in existence. Oh. It allows the house along the water the rights to basically say, I'm going to build a structure in corridor A, but I'll just move those over there. And Mr. Walker acknowledged that in the conversations. I don't think anything has been formally redocumented.
Okay.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, so as far as a path forward, we would prefer them to come to a formal agreement. And then, can this be tabled until a formal agreement? If they agree to it?
We,
Can we vote
Yeah.
on the height and then let the Walkers and the Pattersons decide on the location and viewing corridors?
That's a little complicated because, that could change. They might say, yes, we agree to this, but it's 24 feet or something, to do something with a caveat is.
We're not going to go greater than, though, what's proposed.
Oh, I understand that, yeah.
from my perspective, I don't think we should get into it all trying to interpret the deeds and try to broker an arrangement with respect to what the view corridors really mean in these deeds and so forth. I respectfully submit that we just stay out of that. And instead we just focus on, do they meet the 5 criteria? As far as them trying to reach an agreement, sure, neighbor opposition is something to be considered, but nevertheless, do they meet the 5 criteria, regardless of whether the Walkers and the Pattersons make an accommodation about what they would live as far as a view requirement.
Okay. You want to review the 5 criteria?
Yes, I was talking to, I'm so sorry, your name again is? Kelly, yes, I'm so sorry. Yeah, Grace, and if I can, and again, I don't mean to put you on the hot seat,
Go for it. I
but,
think collectively, Kelly and I can do it.
yeah. You see, Kelly, he's already trying to dump onto you and make you the scapegoat, so. We here are a very limited board. All we can do is follow the zoning ordinance, which is primarily adopted from Pennsylvania law. And we just can't simply willy-nilly grant a variance just because we think it's a good idea. There's those standards we have to meet. And for this dimensional variance, there are 5 standards that have to be met. Okay, and the big one here, and the first one always is, it's called a hardship. What is the hardship here that justifies the variance? And again, I do apologize, Kelly. I didn't mean to give you a hard time when you were talking, but I mean, at least I would think some reasonable people could have trouble finding the hardship here, because again, at least what I've heard is the Pattersons understandably have a great place. You got the beautiful lake there. They want a better view, but is that really a hardship because they want a better view? And I'm kind of loading up the question as I'm saying it, but what's the hardship here?
What's the better view you're referencing?
Well, okay, they want simply a high. They want higher. They want a greater height.
So I would say, and Kelly's smarter on this than I am. As she referenced, some of the structure has been moved to the south. So the view argument, we're not trying to get more real estate on the water. Again, we're trying to balance wants with confrontation, I guess is maybe the simplest way to put it.
Yeah.
We also, though, are running up against elements of what pitch roof can be done to maintain the structural integrity of the materials that are being selected for water runoff. And so there's a little bit of reverse engineering that went into it too, which netted us this extra 6 feet we needed. So the hardship would be we can't make the structure work with the materials. And quite honestly, we'd probably run into materials that neighbors would be more upset with because of their less aesthetically pleasing finishes. So there's a balance with everything.
Well, again, I know you're not here to be bored to death by the law, but the case law here is, the law here is pretty clear. A hardship cannot be a self-created hardship. And perhaps some people could say that this is actually a self-created hardship because you want to use certain materials, therefore it must be a certain height. And because it could be built at the 20 foot, right? You don't have to build it higher. Yeah.
We really need to go let them finish, and then we'll give you an opportunity to come up. We'll give everyone an opportunity.
I don't believe this is self-inflicted. Yes, an accessory structure is desired by the owners, but the height is due to the site limitations and the buildable area. If you look at Sanford's site plan, you'll see that there's really no more buildable area on this property except for directly north of the Walker's property. So it's not an attempt to get a better lake view or more lake view, it's just the last remaining piece of the property that you can build upon. And so we are trying to be cognizant and respectful to the neighbors, which inevitably drove up the ridge line.
But
So,
it could, but it
so
could
no,
be,
we would have to sacrifice program, we would have to sacrifice program to be able to fit within the 20 feet.
but it could be built at 20 feet. You can make it smaller. There's nothing stopping you from doing
Not
that,
meet
right?
the desired programming, but a building
Yes,
could be
the
built
desired
at
program.
8 is the point I think you're trying to make.
Yeah, I mean, again, some people could say just because you want something, that doesn't make it a hardship. In fact, I can bore you with opinions from our appellate courts that specifically say that. And the other thing, I mean, I was asking Kelly, you would know Grayson, the property, better than Kelly. Nothing has really changed in terms of topography since it's been bought, right? There's been no mudslide that caused a new hill. There's been no stream come in, anything like that, right?
No, if anything, there's been reinforcement because of concerns of future loss if we did not do something.
Okay, so, I mean, your parents bought the property knowing what they were getting. Nothing has changed since they bought it, right?
Nothing major.
All right. And again, I don't want to sit here and you guys are going to be falling asleep here going through all this legal mumbo jumbo. The second criteria is there's no possibility the property can be developed in conformity with the ordinance. And I think you would agree it sure could. Number one, no one's making you put up this accessory structure, right? And number two, you can make it smaller, make it a lower height.
In exchange for asking for a height variance, we would evaluate, our next step would be we would make a wider building, which would be more obstructive to the neighbors, which we have the right to do, and we don't want to do that.
Well, you can, okay. And the other thing, I'm boring you, the hardship's not self-imposed. We talked about that. And the next one, I think, is not a concern here. Granting the variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. I mean, there's been no evidence that it's going to cause some type of mudslide or erosion or anything like that. So we're not worried about that. Then the last one, I don't think we have to concern ourselves about. Now, I'll tell you, again, the last, and I promise you I'll shut up. Under dimensional variances, the hardship doesn't have to be as severe, or it doesn't have to be as pronounced as compared to a use variance. But you still got to show an actual hardship with the land. Do you have anything else to say why you think this is a hardship? Why you have to have this building at this size and so forth?
I would just say the hardship is the buildable area and being respectable to the neighbors. And I know I'm repeating myself as well, but we felt that asking for a little more height was not only being contextual to the surrounding accessory structures, that some were original, some were granted variances, but preserving the open space of that lot. So that is the hardship.
And I pretty much know where you are, but that whole area of Wolf Row, I mean, each property is pretty unique, isn't it? You would agree?
Wolf Road owners like to think so, yes?
Yeah, I mean, each property is unique in terms of height and location and so forth. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. All right. I have no other questions.
Okay, I don't have any. Okay. Unless there's anything else you'd like to state, I don't think we have any questions.
Appreciate the time. Hopefully I added something.
Thank you. Now, we'll give a chance for the audience. Please come up, state your name and address.
Thank you.
Okay. Matt can get that to you.
Yes, my name's Karen Rapp, and I've lived right around these houses for 45 years. And I've seen a lot of change since I've been there, believe me. It was nice and quiet. You know, you had views of the lake because there was only one existing house that was built way back then. And the other, when the one Griswold man died, the property that they're talking about now that their dad has, it's down, way down. and then they have property coming up. You see the lake all over, except when they built their house, now you really can't see from where the house is that's set back a little bit from the three that are, or the two that are on the lake. So it was no big deal, but then Frank Victor bought the house that was down by me, in front of me, and he put a variance in. Everybody's putting a variance in. So he wanted to build a garage on the property, and that would block my view of seeing the lake, but it wasn't any big deal to him. He needed a big garage, and he built a garage with a 17-foot height. And I said, why do you need something like that? And he says, I have 6 or 7 cars. Really? So, you know, so that's blocked, and there's one blocked over there, so there's only one way you can kind of see on an angle the lake anymore, and that's where this is coming up, building a construction that they want to have a gym. I mean, now, there'll be more traffic in and out of there, and we've had a lot of it, believe me. Trucks, all kinds of things coming in and out with all the construction that's been down there. I don't know if this is a private gym. I take it is, that should be with their house. I hope it's not for, you know, a lot of people coming in and out.
It would have to meet proper zoning requirements, yes, and be private.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, it's just a big change for a lot of us. You know, it was quiet and nice there, and now it's changing that you can't even see the lake. And you can understand, for me being there 45 years, there was no homes in front of my house for years. It was an apple orchard. It was called Garnestillo. And now there's houses all along there, but it's done nicely and the people are pretty good. But this is just kind of crazy, taking up this land with all the 4 houses we have there. It's just one thing after another. And we do have a lot of traffic that comes in and out, especially for the house north of me.
Okay.
A lot of things. So anyway, if you have any questions, I mean, I just don't understand why there's always these variances, and they're always given. And the people that didn't want them, then we have to go with people giving it. So it just changes everything. The privacy, you know, everything else down there. It's not like it was. And I just wanted you to hear that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Ma'am,
Mrs.
I think
Graham,
there's a binder clip.
you dropped something by the podium.
I think it was just a binder clip, which may not even be yours. I don't know. Oh.
Mrs. Graham, while we have you up here, would you mind telling us your address, or if you feel more comfortable, just writing it down, bringing it up here?
5154 Wolf Road.
Where are you in relation to the Patterson home? For example, you're next door, across the street, two down?
If you're looking toward the lake this way, Patterson's down here. Down,
The court reporter can't take down gestures. Can you use words?
yeah, Patterson would be down to my west.
Okay. Like, for example, a quarter of a mile, you know, 500 feet? What?
I don't know.
A rough
Probably
estimate.
Quarter of a mile, maybe not even that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I can help you out. This is your house, is that right?
Yeah, that's where I'm at right there.
So she's directly east of Walker.
Okay.
So on your first original plot plan. And oh, sorry. Just trying to help her. Her home is right here. This is the original plot
Again,
plan.
the court reporter can't take down gestures. You want to tell us in words as to where she is?
She is at 5154, directly east of the Walker home. So she's south of, on the southeast portion of this property, but all of these 3 homes were existing to those 3 properties.
Okay, thank you, Kelly.
Okay.
That's all.
Anyone else?
exhibits in before the end of this particular variance hearing? Can you make exhibits if it's been admitted here?
Generally, if they
They just give it?
provide it,
Where are we?
as far as, not at the township gave us the stuff from the neighbor. They've documented that. So he was asking if it needs to go in as an exhibit.
Do you make exhibits of these documents, like
Yes.
during the hearing? During the hearing we will? Okay. Yeah, before we end this one, we'll make exhibits
Okay.
of these. yeah.
Good evening, supervisors and Attorney Snavely. My name is Christina Nikopoulos, and this is my husband, Bill Nikopoulos. We abut the Walker property, and we were given notice of the hearing, but we don't know too much about the plans and what's being built. Are we supposed to come to look at them, or were neighbors distributed the plans? Forgive me for my ignorance, because I don't, we were traveling and I didn't know if
Sure.
he's giving the, 'cause it seemed like Mr. Walker had some sort of plans. We've seen nothing. And we abut the property with Mr. Patterson.
So where are you in location?
So we're directly south of Mr. Walker's house. So
Okay.
We're down here.
Again,
other
the court
side.
reporter can't take down
Other side of the
gestures.
private drive.
Okay.
So
The private drive abuts the rear of your property?
Pardon me?
The private drive abuts the rear of your
Well,
property?
there's two private drives. So Mr. Patterson, to get to his house, he has to go on behind our house to get to
Yes.
his home. And then Miss Rupp has to go on the other private drive that abuts our home to get to her home. And in between that is Mr. Patterson and Mr. Walker's and the other two homes
Okay.
that are there. And so we're concerned, are we going to be able to see this structure? And we haven't seen any
Where is the
plans.
structure going?
And then we
Yeah,
haven't,
don't know.
One at a time, please.
Only take one at a time.
Go ahead.
Sir, I didn't get your name.
Bill Nikopoulos.
We just haven't seen any plans, so how would we get our hands on those, or is that something that,
Call the zoning office?
so we come there?
Yes, we could show you the plans now. I mean, we're at the hearing at this point. so-
I guess we would,
Can you just talk briefly to the procedure?
Regarding,
It's published, and there's a letter that's sent out, and
Oh, yes.
how notice works?
yes, so we publish a legal ad in the newspaper twice. We send out letters to the neighbors 400 feet from the property. Basically, if you have questions, you can call our office. We'll definitely show you the application that's been submitted. Unfortunately, unless the zoning hearing board would continue the hearing, I would assume they'd either motion to vote tonight or use their 30-day capacity to vote. So if you would like to see the plans, we can definitely show you the application now.
Well, I guess the main concern is whether the height, it says it's the height variance. So is the height going to be above the level of where, like, the Walker residence is, or where our residence is, above the?
because right now we see trees, and are we going to see this big gym? And I'm concerned with the traffic
We
there
just
as well.
don't know what the plan is. It's hard to object or not object or be in favor or not in favor when there's no information.
Were you guys notified by Todd or notified you got it in the mail?
In the mail.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I misheard.
Take a dinner break.
I guess the question is the top of the roof line going to be above the level of the, I'll call it bluff, sort of, where folks can see it when they're
The
above?
bluff sits approximately 20 feet above the existing home, Mr. Patterson's home, and the building is constructed on that bluff for a total height of 26 feet. So it would be 26 feet above the height of that bluff, approximately.
So it's basically on equal elevation of our house, and like the Walker's house, basically the same height
Within
as
reason,
ours.
I would say, yes. Not knowing the exact topographical difference as we move southerly, but that's what it's showing. From that existing ground where the building would go, it's
But there's a
approximately-
gym that could be built without seeking a variance within the proper height structure that wouldn't obstruct the views of the neighbors.
If a building were 20 feet tall, it would comply.
Okay.
I did not prepare the application. The information submitted, the architect may be able to answer these questions. Unfortunately, I just don't have that information for you. Okay. 5158, is that this house?
Even the zoning officer can't answer questions, so I think we should table the discussion so until people have a chance to really understand what it is that they're gonna be agreeing to or disagreeing to.
I would move to
Seems
table the
fair. I mean,
discussion.
we got a
so-
letter that basically says, there's a hearing today. That's all it said, and we were traveling, so we really couldn't investigate what was happening. And now, you know, we're giving maps at the last minute. How do we know whether there's even a concern? I mean, I like Bill Patterson. He's a generous guy. He's a nice fellow. And I don't want to stand up here and object to something if there's no objection, but we just don't have any information.
As far as the timing,
that's the thing.
as the township, we have a standard operating procedure of how we put that
I
information out.
understand
I
that.
apologize, it
No, I
came to you
understand
late,
that.
you were
And you're
gone.
following
We'll
your
certainly
procedure.
we'll certainly take what your thoughts under advisement.
Yeah, because this is really a big change to that neighborhood. It's a very private place, a very quiet place, and the more houses that go up, the more things that happen. You know, it's disturbing to our neighbors here. And we're just trying to preserve the quietness of the neighborhood. There's a lot more traffic since the other houses went up. I understand there's always landscapers coming in and out. There's always seems to be hustle and bustle. It's all basically in our backyard because of the private
And
drive
we have
that
two
runs
drives that
behind
abut our
house.
yard, and so now with
Yeah.
an extra structure, I like to sit outside, listen to the birds.
Yeah.
What am I going to be listening to now, and what am I going to be seeing? I look at, you know, I already have to see the drive that Mr. Patterson goes through to get to his home, and then the other drive that abuts my house, which is not, that's a different story for another day, but, and then I see that traffic, so now I'm going to be able to see this big gym. And so it's just our, you know, we value our quiet
Like I
time.
said,
and
if
so
it's
that's all.
below the level that we can see it, maybe we don't object, maybe we even are in favor of it. But if we could see a brand-new house coming up in the back of the woods there, I don't know.
Okay.
I'd like you to table, I would like the board to table the discussion until we have more of a chance to figure out what it is that is really being proposed.
Okay, thanks for your thoughts.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay. I believe that's it. That'll close testimony for that appeal.
No, I'll move. Whoop, I'm sorry. Here, I'm sorry.
you said, Jeremy? Yeah. Okay, appeal number 25-06, Haysite Reinforced Plastics LLC for property located at 5599 New Perry Highway, seeking a height variance for 2 silos in the I-1 Light Industrial District.
Good afternoon. My name is Edward Betza. I'm an attorney in Erie, and I represent Haysite Reinforced Plastics. I have with me some representatives of Haysite. In the back, I have Jordi Casanas, who is the president of Haysite. But with me at the table, I have David Janis, who's the managing director, and Mark Diekman, who's the architect that has handled this project. I do have a couple of handouts. Would it be okay to approach the board?
Absolutely. Thank you. Great, thank you.
Thanks.
That's
Share that if you want.
Go ahead.
So I wanted to give you a brief background, and then I'll have 2 very quick witnesses just so I can create a record. But Haysite is a manufacturer of fiberglass reinforced polyester products. That may not mean a whole lot to many people in the room. It didn't mean a lot to me until I was there, but they make lightweight, high-quality insulation products using fiberglass. They were founded in 1954. They've been in Mill Creek for over 70 years. In 2018, they became part of a bigger corporation called Isovolta Group, which is a worldwide corporation with offices all over the world. Locally, they employ more than 100 people in its Mill Creek facility located at 5599 New Perry Highway. These are good jobs. They're union jobs. Their employees are members of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers Union. These are pretty high-paying positions. The reason we're here is that business is doing very well for Haysite, and they are in a position where they're able to expand. The expansion would be both physical in terms of larger storage and manufacturing space, and also some internal changes that will make improvements to the operation and make it more efficient. The expectation is that this expansion will create at least 30 additional jobs. As part of the expansion, the draft proposal for how this is going to work is that there would be 2 silos built to store material. Those silos would be 75 feet in height. Mill Creek Township zoning ordinance limits the height for 50 feet. So we're here today to ask for a 25-foot variance for each of 2 silos. This would not, just for historical purposes, I grew up in Mill Creek, and this is not the first time a tower or anything higher than 50 feet has been on Haysite's property. For many of you, I think it was my entire lifetime, there was a 150-foot tower in the front of that property that was torn down in October of 2022. But for most of my life, traveling up and down that area, I would always see that tower as kind of a cool sight to see. That's now gone, but we have a need for these 2 towers. I'm going to offer the testimony of 2 witnesses, but I'll cut to the chase. There's really 3 key parts of what you're going to hear from those witnesses. The material that's going to go into these towers is really a powder, and they're currently using it, and they're delivering it now by tractor trailer. Every month, 20 tractor trailers bring material off I-79 through Mill Creek into the city of Erie at Hardinger Transfer, located at 1314 West 18th Street. They're bringing that material in at about 20 trucks a month. In addition, 20 trucks a month are coming from the Hardinger site up to the New Perry Highway site, and they're coming all through Mill Creek. The significance of that is you're familiar with that location where Haysite is. That's it's a horrible intersection. It's a horrible area. There is a lot of arteries off the side. There's a lot of driveways off the side. And it's right off the highway, and you have cars traveling at a high rate of speed, and the company has been, unfortunately, witnesses to accidents. If we can have these 2 silos, we can eliminate about 30 of the trucks coming. They would now only be about 10 trucks a month coming off I-90, headed right down, which would eliminate about 30 travels by semi in the township every month. That makes it safer, it makes it better. The second issue is that 75 feet is too high. And so I asked the question of the client, why not just go lower? Why not, instead of 275, it's 150 total feet, why not 350 foot? Doesn't that cut that doesn't do it? And we'll have testimony that'll explain that there's a benefit to the tall, thin tower rather than a short, fat tower. Stuff gets clumped at the bottom and it doesn't work. So the 2 tall, thin towers will work for the company's purpose to allow the material to enter into the facility. The last thing is, well, why not put maybe another thing dealing with more, but put them elsewhere on the property. The back of the property is fronted by Penelec power lines, and there's very limited area to build. And so you have really bad traffic in the front, and in the back you have Penelec lines. So you have very limited area to build. That's really the heart of the issue. But I would first, unless the board has any questions for me, I would be prepared to call Mr. Janis.
So in regards to the silo theory or the picture you have, is this similar size to like a farm silo? And not the height, but like the dimensions of it, circumference and...
We'll have witness perhaps offer better. I'd say it's not that big. I think it's 18 feet, so it's a little bit, I would say, smaller than a typical farm silo that I would see.
In that regard, is there any place on the property that you could put one of those, it's not a silo, it's the one that's on the ground, it's like a sock that takes the place, do you know what I'm talking about?
If it's purely for storage, yeah, I think you probably can always find some area on the property. And again, I'll defer to the experts, but there's always areas on the property you might be able to do something.
Almost like a fallen silo.
It won't drain. It's almost as if like this needs to be a funnel. I'm using my own terms, but a funnel to have the material go downward and into the facility for processing.
Okay.
And what that allows is it rather than trucking it in and perhaps hand carrying it or somehow getting it into the facility, it now becomes automated, which will eliminate about 30 trucks a month.
I misunderstood and thought it was just storage.
No, well, it's storage, but it's pretty cool storage. It's actually a function. I would call David Janis. Sir, would you please state your full name?
David J. Janis.
And Mr. Janis, what is your position?
I am the managing director for Haysite.
What does Haysite do?
We're a thermoset compression molder. We also do pultrusion specifically geared for electrical insulation.
How many employees do you have?
Over 100, roughly 104, 105 as of today.
And I've mentioned before, but is the company currently planning an expansion?
Yes, it's a very exciting time for Haysite, yes.
Can you explain briefly what that expansion is?
We developed a master plan. It's a 7-phase development centered around really bringing Haysite to the next level.
And I know that in your application you talk about square foot additions. Can you give us a rough estimate of how much you're going to expand?
I think in total it's roughly 30 to 40,000 square feet total throughout the 7 phases.
In addition, we've talked about silos. There are 2 silos that are proposed?
That's correct.
Will this expansion lead to any new jobs created in Mill Creek?
Absolutely. We project at least 30 to 40 new positions at that site.
Are you familiar with the proposal of the silos?
Yes, I am.
What's going to go into those silos?
It's a filler powder that we use in our process of mixing for our wet layup mixes.
And how many different types of powders do you use?
2 for the silos.
And so one would be in one silo and one in the other?
Correct.
Okay. How do you currently use those powders?
Yes, we do.
How do you currently get that powder into your facility?
We bring truckloads that are stored at Hardinger, and we shuttle them to the Haysite facility frequently.
And how many truckloads do you get in a month period of time?
A minimum of at least 40. It could be even higher than that.
Does the truck traffic create any safety issues for the company?
Absolutely. It's a very congested highway, as was mentioned. New Perry Highway, the intersections to the south, there's been several accidents. To the north, there's been many accidents. I've actually had to call Mill Creek Police to come out and escort traffic in and out of our parking lot because of the congestion.
With the proposed silos, will that reduce the amount of truck traffic you experience?
Yes.
What will your new truck traffic be if this proposal were approved?
We believe around 9 to 10 truckloads, again, direct to the Haysite facility. So any shuttles through Erie into Mill Creek Township from the warehouse would be eliminated.
And where would those trucks come from?
They could come from Tennessee. They could come from the Cleveland, Ohio area.
I'm sorry, good answer, but poor question. How would they from what road would they come into your facility? Would they come off I-90?
Yeah, I'd come Interstate 90 and then exit northbound, exit 27, Route 505 or New Perry Highway.
Okay. If these silos were approved, how would that help the business?
The safety of the people as well as the neighborhood was assessed throughout the plan. The traffic in the parking lot is a concern of ours. If you're familiar with the site, we also have a distribution center to the north. There's a church to the north as well, and there's a church directly next to us that we've evaluated. So the safety of the people as well as our neighbors would be greatly reduced by cutting traffic from 40 to 10.
That's all the questions that I have for Mr. Janis. Okay. I would like to call Mark Diekman. Sir, would you please state your full name?
I'm Mark Diekman with Hassestaub Architects. I'm a project manager and design architect for this project.
Are you familiar? Have you been working on this project for Haysite?
Yes, we've been involved for the past year or so, including the expansion.
Can you please pull the microphone a little bit closer?
Including the overall master plan expansion and in particular this phases 2.
Were you involved in the development or the proposal of the 2 silos?
Yes.
And what is the purpose of the silos from your perspective?
The silos support the mixing addition, which is the primary focus of this project, which will replace their smaller and less safe, older mixing facility, which is predominantly manually handled. In other words, materials that come in are handled by workers directly to mixing, large mixers, vats, and so forth. The 2 silos are the 2 major filler products that are used in their process, and the silos aren't only storage, but they're also then directly fed into the processing of the mixing and taking it out of direct handling by employees.
And I reference this in my presentation of the board, but if I need 150 feet of storage and material to be delivered into the facility, why not 3 50-foot towers instead of 2 75-foot?
Well, the design of silos is very precise based on the material. For example, water flows with gravity. It goes where it wants to go. It flows very well. Other materials, like in this case, more like a silica or a powder form, doesn't flow like water. So enlarging the actual tank and lowering it creates a problem where you get more rat holing, they call it, where material gets stuck. So the engineering, which is by the manufacturer, takes into account the exact materials being stored and how it can drift downwards by gravity to the bottom.
Sir, I provided the board with a couple of documents, and I wanted just to turn to, I think it's the front page of your bigger page, but it's, I'm looking at the map. Can you identify, can you perhaps hold up to the board and show where the, I've referenced Penelec lines. Can you show the board where the Penelec lines are or identify it?
Yeah, on your map, Penelec is this piece of property that kind of cuts from the north down to a corner, which happens to align with Haysite's current truck traffic and truck dock area. That kind of restricts how much space we have to work with between the existing building and the property. Penelec does have transmission lines coming out, which is an easement across the property to the east, which would show on your drawing should be a pink dashed line, which kind of restricts going out away. But probably even more importantly is the material in the silos. It wants to go right into the mixing addition, so that's proximity to that addition is probably the primary purpose for having the silos where they're located, which is at the back. The other advantage was the truck traffic for that unloading and filling those silos would be right in line with their existing truck dock, so they don't need to have a separate area for that.
Sir, one last question. Other than the requested variance for height, does the project and the expansion, as you've drafted it, comply with all other provisions of Mill Creek Township zoning ordinance?
Yes, to our knowledge, we were complying with all other zoning requirements.
That's all the questions that I have for Mr. Diekman.
Okay. The area that is, and I'm sorry, I just can't see it well enough. There's an area that's like a darker gray on the rear right next to the silos.
The darker gray is the addition.
That's the addition, yes.
Phase two. The lighter gray is the existing plant.
And then looking at the second page, what is the height of that addition relative to the silos? I know it's on there, I just can't read it.
It actually has two heights. The lower height is going to match the existing plant. The center of the mixing addition is, I believe, was 38 feet.
38?
38, this is 32.
You might find that actually dimensioned on the third.
32?
It's actually on the second drawing.
Excuse me. And we have the drawings, but just to confirm for the record, it is on the rear of the
Yes.
building, correct?
Correct.
Away from Perry Highway. Rich? Jeremy?
So, as part of the application to the zoning hearing board, it says that there's to be 2 silos, 75 feet or less in overall height. So, can you speak to the requirement that this has to be 75 feet, or can it be a lower height, the silos?
And we've had that discussion. The drafting and the plan is that it would be 75 feet. It is possible that during the construction it could be something less. I mean, but we're not talking a big deviation. It might be 72 feet or 73 feet. It would just be no greater under any circumstance than 75.
Okay, so you don't envision it to be any material change from 75 feet, like to 60 feet or
No.
55 feet?
That would not be anticipated. I certainly, if it works and it could be done at 60 feet, I assure you that would save significant costs in the construction. They would do it, but it would be rate approximately 75 feet for the engineering design to work.
Okay. And just getting to the variance criteria, it's been, I guess, your testimony that a lot of the limitations on where, I guess, these silos or where this can be placed is because of the Penelec can you speak a little bit more to that? So, I mean, there's I guess, various high-tension wires and easements in the back that this is really like the only location where these can go. And also, it's been further your testimony that there's really no other, is there any other options aside from the silos that you can put forth?
So if I look at it, I would present to the board that I think the unique circumstances that are at least physical are that in the front of the property, you do have, I think, a very unique traffic pattern along that property of high-speed traffic with a number of side roads that come right off. You have a church, you have a daycare center, you have an Arby's just up the hill, and it's just dangerous. So the first thing is that although there's space to expand and there's a desire to expand, expansion creates pretty significant safety hazards because of the configuration of the roadway. In the back of the property, there is Penelec lines that limit the ability to move back. But I don't want to mislead this board. As Mr. Diekman pointed out, for this silo project to really be viable, it's got to be close to the building. And so if you were to put it, you know, I don't know the dimensions, but a quarter mile away, it's just not going to work. So it has to be right up abutted to the building. So the Penelec lines don't really limit the silo idea. The Penelec lines create a nightmare for traffic because you're going to have, they have an existing way that trucks enter and exit the facility, and you can't expand that backward because of the Penelec lines. So from a hardship perspective, I would present that we really have a legitimate safety issue that we can make better for the residents and visitors to Mill Creek and for the employees and the company. We also have the power lines that limit the ability to be flexible. If I go down the rest of it, the company has a phenomenal opportunity to expand its operations, but it just flat out can't do it without some help to go higher. You said, what would the alternative be? The alternative would be to stay exactly where we're at, truck the stuff in, which means we have greater truck traffic, but we also don't have an ability then to expand. And so we would potentially run the risk of losing, you know, additional jobs. Haysite did not create the traffic problem. Haysite did not create the power line problem. The variance will not alter the neighborhood. And in fact, I'll remind you, I mean, there used to be a 150-foot tower there forever that people kind of thought as a Mill Creek landmark rather than as an eyesore. These are going to be much smaller and tucked away in the back of the building that will really not be visible and will remain consistent with the industrial nature of the property. And this is the minimum necessary. And as you pointed out, if we could go 73 feet, we will, but this is the minimum necessary for two different types of powders to be filtered into that property.
And that was going to be one of my questions. What was the height of that existing tower that was tore down in 2022?
So 150 feet. And if it really excites you, I do have a video of it. I was there when they tore it down, which is like one of the coolest things that Mr. Janis and Mr. Kasanis ever invited me to.
And Matt, just to be clear, there is no zoning designation in Mill Creek that would allow 75?
The Presque Isle District is limited by the Airport Hazard Zoning Overlay District. But other than that, there'd be no, like, none of the industrial districts would permit us.
The point is we don't have an option within Mill Creek Township to build silos at 75 feet currently.
For manufacturing, correct.
Right. So, okay.
And then lastly, can you just state the addresses of everybody for the record? Yeah, just go through the line, because I think we got names, but we didn't get addresses.
For myself, Mark Diekman, do you want my home address or office address?
Office is fine.
Office 190 North Union Street, Suite 400, Akron, Ohio, 44304, and that's how I signed it on the log coming in. $5599 New Perry Highway, Erie, Pennsylvania 16509.
also how it's on the log.
And my address would be 456 West 6th Street, Erie, Pennsylvania, 16507.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience or the township that would like to present on this? Okay. Moving on. Appeal number 25-07, Mark Platter, sorry if I messed that up, for property located at 913 Montpelier Avenue, seeking a special exception for a bed and breakfast in the R1 single-family residential district.
I want to say thank you, first of all, for seeing us, for actually doing this, for being here. Thank you.
Could you please state your name and address?
Okay,
for us?
I am Kim Platter,
Okay,
Mark's wife. The address is 913 Montpelier Avenue.
thank you.
And this is Mark.
Yeah, I'm Mark. We're responding to a Mill Creek Township Planning Development letter that we received in the mail about April 19th, alleging a violation of the limited lodging ordinance. So we're here today to request that the property located at 913 Montpelier Avenue, our home, be granted bed and breakfast in zoning under Article 145-15, Section C2 of the zoning code. It seems like we meet all the requirements listed in Chapter 145, Article 5, Supplemental Regulations, Section 145-43, Bed and Breakfast Inns. 913 Avenue, our home, is located in an R1 district on a lot measuring 11,700 square feet. And that's attachment 1 on the plot map.
1,100 square feet.
Yeah, 11,000, I'm sorry. I misspoke.
Thanks.
Our home is the only principal structure on the lot, as you can see in attachment 2. We plan to use 2 of the 3 bedrooms for a bed and breakfast inn. We will not be installing a ground sign, don't need it. Service of meals will be limited only to overnight guests at the facility. We are the owners and managers of the facility and reside therein. Overnight guests will not be permitted to occupy the facility for more than 14 consecutive nights in a 30-day period. Means of ingress to and egress from the lot are via Montpelier Avenue. You can see attachment 3. Guests have the use of a private gated driveway off Montpelier, and that's attachment 4. The driveway is 10 feet wide and 100 feet long to accommodate vehicles. So there's no parking on the street for vehicles. They can pull inside the gate and close the gate. We have operated bed and breakfast in our home using 2 rooms for the past 4 years. We consider the bed and breakfast to be an asset to the neighborhood of Mill Creek Township. So please consider granting us bed and breakfast in zoning under Article 5, Section 145-43. Thank you for your consideration in this matter.
Thank you. Jeremy, do you want to go through the criteria?
I think that was his testimony just now. So just following up on your testimony, so there's the home itself, it's 2 bedrooms?
It's a 3-bedroom home.
It's a 3-bedroom. So the 2 bedrooms that you're renting out through the bed and breakfast, you're staying and physically occupying and residing in?
Yes, we live in the house. It's 2 bedrooms. We originally built it for my mother-in-law. And she didn't want to move. So there's a private entrance on that driveway.
Okay.
It's gated. The whole property's fenced, so you can bring your dog and, that kind of thing.
Okay. And just to, I guess, kind of rehash what you said, so in terms of the criteria for the bed and breakfast, according to the zoning ordinance, the minimum lot size, 10,000 square feet, you meet that based on the 11,700 square feet. You said that it is, there's only 1 structure on the residence,
correct,
or on the property, correct? Yep. And that's a single-family dwelling detached. You have 3 bedrooms total, which is less than the 5 that's the max that can be permitted. Do you have any ground sign or no ground sign?
No ground sign.
No ground sign. And you did mention as part of your testimony that service of meals limited to overnight guests only. You just confirmed what I had asked, that the requirement that the owner and manager of the facility shall reside there. You also testified that the facility, that no overnight guests can occupy the facility for more than 14 consecutive nights in a 30-day period. And then lastly, means of ingress, egress to the lot, the ordinance says that it needs to be an arterial collector or connector street only. Matt, is Montpelier, is that meet the criteria for that? Because I just don't know offhand.
We use the PennDOT classification map for the roads, and it's definitely not classified as a arterial or collector. However, we don't have a definition for connector. So it says it has to be one of the three. So, not quite sure how to answer that.
Okay, so you're not, I guess you know for that it's not an arterial or a collector street, but not sure of whether or not it would be classified as a connector street. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, Mark, go ahead.
Mark Shaw, Township Solicitor, who will be presenting testimony on that?
Okay. Yeah, so that's the criteria there. Obviously, as part of a special exception, if they meet the criteria,
Yeah.
then it's a permitted use. Obviously, the board, if it's willing, can establish reasonable conditions on that use if it has any concerns. So.
Okay. All right, I don't think I have anything else at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark?
Good evening. As I indicated, I'm Mark Shaw, solicitor for Mill Creek Township. I do have some questions for the residents, if I could, and then I also have Matt Waldinger to present some testimony regarding the road type.
Okay.
So you indicated that you reside at the residence at 913 Montpelier, correct?
Yes.
And do you reside at that residence year-round, or?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And you indicated that you had built an apartment for
It's just 2 rooms, and they're connected with the bathroom between them.
Okay.
And,
It's basically half of our first floor.
yeah.
And is there access between that apartment area and the rest of your house?
Yes,
And how is that access?
through a pocket door.
Okay. And do the persons who stay in the bed and breakfast have access to the whole house or just the apartment area?
If we open the pocket door, they have access to the house for a meal or
But
something.
typically,
Keep the door closed and listen, yeah.
And do you, in fact, serve meals to folks
We
at
have
the bed
not,
and
we didn't
breakfast?
know we were allowed.
we provide breakfast bars, a coffee maker with coffee, creamer, and tea bags and things like that in the rooms.
Okay, and so this apartment area has a small refrigerator and a microwave and so forth?
Tiny
Yes.
micro fridge. Could you guys share that?
Oh, okay.
It does have a tiny microwave and short little apartment-sized fridge, or not even like a dorm room-sized fridge in it.
Okay. And so people can prepare a meal there if they choose to do so?
In a microwave. We don't,
There's no stove.
there's no stove, there's no place to cook unless they use the grill in the backyard, which we do give them access to.
And is there a sink where the kitchen area is?
Actually, yes.
A hand sink for brushing your teeth.
Okay. And that's separate from the bathroom, correct?
Correct.
You have to, yes, they can.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. And I'm correct that the only access to your property, ingress and egress, is from Montpelier, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. Does the township have a position on this?
I think there's a question as to whether this meets the, whether the apartment area is a separate dwelling, in which case, under the bed breakfast requirements, you're only allowed to have one dwelling per unit. If you have two dwellings, it doesn't fit the definition. So that's why I was inquiring about the nature of the apartment, and does it as a standalone constitute a separate dwelling?
Okay.
And I'd like to call Matt Waldinger with respect to the roadway issue.
Okay.
Matthew Waldinger. I am the Planning and Development Director for Mill Creek Township, 3608 West 26th Street.
He beat my first question. If I could approach and hand out this document.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
I handed you what I've marked as Exhibit 1. Mr. Waldinger, can you explain what Exhibit 1 is?
Yes, this is a GIS map representation of PennDOT's classification of the function class for roads within Mill Creek Township.
And what classes of roads does it identify?
It identifies interstates, arterial roads, collector roads, and
do you see where Montpelier is on this map?
I do.
And could you point that out to the board, please?
It is located, it is west of Powell Avenue, which is an arterial street in the orange, and it is east of the intersections of Westlake Road and West 12th Street in this area where all of the roads are shown as local.
And is Montpelier, as reflected on this drawing, an arterial or a collector street?
No, it is reflected as a local street.
And would you view it as a connector street?
I would not.
Okay. And is this a classification that Mill Creek Township relies on for purposes of determining the types of roads within the township?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I don't have anything further.
Okay, Matt, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Are we fair to say there are no connector streets in Mill Creek Township?
As Matt mentioned, there is no definition of them. As far as function class and how PennDOT identifies them, these are the classifications that they use.
Just saying it's difficult when in the zoning ordinance we mention connector, which would say that there are connector roads in Mill Creek Township, but yet on this classification there are none. So it would seem to be contradictory that there must be connector roads, or else why would we have it in the zoning ordinance? That would be my question.
Sure.
If we're stating that it's not a connector road, why is that in here? Because I would, in my opinion, a connector would be between two more major roads. I'd have to look up a definition. I don't know it. This Montpelier, what roads does Montpelier connect?
It connects between West 12th Street, Westlake Road, and with West 10th in the middle.
Okay.
It does jog and then continue north and does, goes to the lakefront, but this portion.
Yeah, it just seems to limit greatly without allowing that definition. It's a difficult situation when someone tries to comply. So, given your questions and your testimony, is it the township's, what is the township's position?
Township's position is the reference to collector or connector is to the same type of road, just a different description of the same road.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Next one up. Appeal number, excuse me.
Wait a second.
Yes.
Was there any other comments?
I'm sorry. Any other comments from anyone? Appeal number 25-08, Eden Center LLC for property located at 2910 Steratania Road, seeking a parking variance for a change of use to daycare center and professional services in the MU1 Neighborhood Mixed Use District.
Good evening. My name is Marissa Pavlov. My address is 2504 West 37th Street, Erie, PA 16506.
Hello, my name is Danielle Whitelock. My address is 4808 Thoroughbred Loop, Erie, PA 16506.
I do have some folders here for you guys with some stuff in it that I'm referring to tonight. Can I bring that up?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for considering our variance request tonight. Once again, my name is Marissa Pavlov. I am the project manager at the Eden Center. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you regarding the parking lot at the Eden Center and to discuss our future for this important space. With me is one of the owners, Danielle Whitelock, who is stepping in for Victor Whitelock this evening. He is deployed at this time. As you know, the Eden Center is located at 2910 Steratania Road, and it was built in 1938. It previously served as Montclair Elementary School, which closed in 1970, and Montessori Children's House of Erie, which was bought in 2004 by the Montessori Regional Charter School. The Eden Center purchased the property in June of 2023 and has proceeded to invest and update the building's existing infrastructure. The first floor will be designated for daycare operations, while the second floor will provide additional office space for daycare staff, as well as offices available for rental. I am here to request a zoning variance to maintain the existing 47 spaces while adding 4 ADA accessible parking spaces, gaining additional 8 spaces through restriping, equaling a total of 62 parking spaces. On the map labeled A, you can review our planned layout for the parking lot. When assessing our usable...
I can just ask you one question.
Yep.
So you're proposing 62, excuse me, total spaces.
Mm-hmm.
What is the requirement?
Sorry. The original requirement was 110, and then the zoning hearing board granted a reduction to 79 with appeal 24-13.
So the 110 is still accurate as far as requirement?
Correct.
Okay.
But there is a variance on the property currently that allows for 79 parking spaces.
Right, so we're asking to go from 79 down to 62.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. So when assessing our usable square footage, you'll find that the proposed parking is well suited for both of our building plans. The required parking based on usable square footage is 51 spaces, while our proposal includes a total of 62. On the parking ratio analysis labeled B, which was conducted by Laird surveyors, you will find a detailed calculations and assessments. The Eden Center is confident that 62 spaces provide ample capacity for efficiently operate the daycare facility while also accommodating the additional rental space. Expanding the parking lot beyond this would create significant hardships for the facility, the neighborhood, and the broader community. This evening, I would like to share with you the 3 hardships we face and reasons for not extending the parking lot. The first hardship arises from the lot's unique physical constraints and limited space, which you can see from the map labeled C. The success of the Eden Center project relies on preserving the existing green space, which is crucial not only for the children attending the daycare, but also for the surrounding neighborhood. The map clearly illustrates the scarcity of green space in our area, with a larger portion owned by Mill Creek School District. We have reached out to the school district to discuss a potential sale of that remaining property. Our playground is situated on the most practical and well-balanced area of the property. It is the most direct route to the main entrance, which is crucial for potential accidents and injuries which may occur during daycare hours. Also, it provides the best coverage, protection from the high-traffic Sterrettania Road, benefiting from existing trees and bushes that help reduce noise and exhaust pollution. To improve the safety of the newly planned playground, we will incorporate additional protective measures, including enhanced landscaping, fencing, improving lighting, and clear signage. Expanding the parking lot would eliminate a cherished community green space that has been a cornerstone of this neighborhood for over 87 years. The Eden Center believes that maintaining the existing parking lot footprint will help preserve the neighborhood's character and integrity, enhance residents' quality of life, and support property value. The second hardship we face involves preserving the essential character of the neighborhood. Expanding the parking lot to comply with Mill Creek zoning ordinance would compromise the neighborhood's integrity. Increasing concrete, asphalt, and drainage infrastructure would diminish the area's personality and usability, negatively impacting the community's overall appeal. Removing valuable green space to expand the parking lot would be detrimental to the public's welfare. Neighborhood parks and green spaces play a crucial role in enhancing residents' quality of life by providing recreational opportunities and environmental benefits. Losing this green space would not only diminish these benefits, such as cleaner air and reduced noise pollution, but also take away the essential areas of walking, exercise, exploration, and community enjoyment. According to an article, Why Green Spaces Are Good for You on webmd.org, studies have found that green spaces can positively impact both your health, both immediately and over time. The psychological benefits of reducing stress, anxiety, depression, improving mood and emotional well-being. You can refer to the drawings labeled D and E in your folder, which sums up all of those benefits of the green space. Now, these benefits are not just for adults, they're also for children. Outdoor activities help improve children's mood, reduce anxiety, increase physical activity, decrease screen time, and contributing to their overall being. Though our green space has unique physical restraints and limited space, it plays a crucial role in the well-being of our community, families, and the surrounding neighborhoods. The Eden Center believes that maintaining the existing parking lot footprint will help preserve the neighborhood's character, integrity, and enhance residents' quality of life and support property value. The third and final hardship is that the removal of our green space for additional parking would reduce home values in the area and burden the neighborhood. Studies have shown a direct correlation between the amount of green space and higher property values. A study done by VibrantCityLabs.com in 2021, homes in Pittsburgh located 0 to 500 feet of a park saw an average increase in value of $23,900 compared to properties situated 2,500 to 3,000 feet away from a park. Well-kept green spaces boost curb appeal, lower crime, foster community pride, and reduce stress. The Eden Center believes that maintaining the existing parking lot footprint will help preserve the neighborhood's character and integrity, enhance residents' quality of life, and support property values. The Eden Center aims to continue supporting the neighborhood by sponsoring community events and providing outreach programs. During our neighborhood meet and greet in September of 2024, community members and neighbors voiced their strong desire for the building to be repurposed. There's a copy of that meet and greet in your folder labeled F. When we previously appeared before the board, neighbors expressed clear support for this project. Residents in the surrounding neighborhood remain firmly committed to preserving the green space, restoring the building, establishing a daycare, and enhancing property value. I have signed letters from 10 neighbors affirming their support of the building and our project. You can find a copy of the letter in your folder as well. Additionally, I have a petition with the signatures from 29 community members, including many who currently utilize the green space or grew up in that area, advocating for both the green space and the building restoration. I will submit those letters and petitions at the end. We also have signed letters from Senator Laughlin and State Representative Ryan Bizzarro expressing their support. Ultimately, the challenges faced are not the Eden Center's making. The Eden Center is committed to upholding the original vision for the property, nurturing children's growth through education while actively strengthening and supporting family units. We respectfully request that the zoning board grant this variance of 62 parking spaces, allowing us to continue the mission established 87 years ago. Thank you.
Okay, a couple questions.
Yep.
One is, what has transpired between the request for 79 and 62?
So we had a parking study conducted by Laird, and it showed it would significantly impact the daycare playground, the playground in general. Under the proposed parking plan that they developed, a substantial portion of the current playground space would be lost, forcing the relocation further back. The adjustment is far from ideal, particularly in emergency situations where we need to get back to the building. Also, being a daycare, we will have different levels of playground because we will be accommodating infant, toddler, preschool. So different equipment is needed for each age group. So the playground will be substantial, and we would like it to stay in the area that is closest to the entrance and exit for those reasons.
The last proposal did not affect the playground or any green area. That's my question.
Well,
no green space removed with 79. So was it just a mistake? I mean, that's okay if it is. I just trying to understand.
Having an actual parking study showed that 79 was not going to, it would impact the green space.
Okay.
The actual parking study.
79 won't fit on the existing impervious.
Correct.
That's what I was just checking. How many staff total between overlaps? I recall, not that you can rehash it all, but basically in a nutshell, maximum staff at any given one time in the building?
20 to 25.
20 to 25. And maximum drop off and or pickup at any given time?
So we are thinking we will have around 100 children, but our building is going to be different in the fact that we will be having extended hours. We will be open 7 days a week. We will accommodate for those parents that do not have a traditional work schedule. So we may not have 100 children at one time. We do have a already pickup drop-off plan in our minds of how they will enter through Greeley, go across the back of the parking lot. Drop-off will be at the main entrance, what we're calling the main entrance, which is the closest one to Sterrettania, and then they will be let out onto Sterrettania. We plan on having extra staff at that time so parents do not have to get out of their car. There will be drop-off times from 7 to whatever, and those are the times that they will be doing the drive-through. Same with pickup, will be the same exact routine. I've talked to neighbors with that. Last time they were here, they didn't have a problem with any of those. So.
Okay. As far as exiting onto Sterrettania, if that's the exit, have you thought about either a right-hand only or having the Mill Creek Police there? Because I'm very familiar with McDowell and debacle
correct.
Every morning. And
that
they have
is,
a police officer
option.
that discharges everyone out because you've got, I don't know, over 1,000 kids arriving. Well, some are on bus, but say 500 kids, whatever it is, arriving and leaving at one time, and it's a mess.
Right.
So I don't know if you have provisions for that.
we can definitely look into those things.
Okay. And it might be a right turn only, so people aren't holding everything up through your parking lot, but just want to make sure we're not creating a hardship on the neighborhood. The neighborhood's happy to have green space, but we also don't want to have, you know, them getting phone calls that people are driving in their grass or parking their yards or whatever it is.
And the gentleman that was here last time, he did voice his opinion on that. And I did talk to people that were like, we know how it is, we've seen it before, and they were fine with it, so.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Anything?
Matt, have you seen this parking study?
I have, yes.
Okay, and I guess they're calculating based on, I think it's usable square footage, and you're coming up with a total required parking spaces by virtue of this parking needs analysis of 51.
Correct.
And that's, and I think based on the zoning ordinance, it's based on gross floor area as opposed to usable space, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And so the calculation that you came up with 110 is based on the ordinance and the interpretation of gross floor area, correct?
Correct.
And the difference being gross floor area is based on the what? Like measuring from the exterior, is it the outside or the inside of the exterior wall?
Yes, it'd be the exterior footprint, in this case, since there's 2 floors.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that doesn't change your take or your conclusion that per the ordinance, 110 parking spaces are required?
Correct. That would be the required parking as the ordinance is written.
Okay. I don't think I have any further.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt. Yeah, we'll give everyone a turn.
Hi, again, Matthew Waldinger, Director of Planning and Development for Mill Creek Township, 3608 West 26th Street. Want to address a couple items for the board, the first having to do with the 70-plus number of the previous variance. We did review that with the owners of the property, and there was a little bit of confusion regarding the township as far as minimum space sizes, as well as drive lane requirements. And so because of the need for circulating vehicles to meet the township requirement, that was the issue with the 70-plus spaces. We have been in contact and have been working with the owners since then to come to a solution that maximizes the amount of spaces that they could get in. They did provide us with this parking needs analysis. We reviewed it. To Attorney Toman's point, they are proposing that although there is gross floor area inside the building that's being counted for the parking needs, an area such as the cafeteria gymnasium, they're not generating additional users because of that space. Just the people that are occupying the daycare, for example, would be in the cafeteria. And so they subtracted that to get to their number, and we have reviewed that and we are satisfied with the plan.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So my name's Justin Bruno. I'm actually, I'm across the street from the old Montessori building. So 2820 Greeley Avenue, Erie, PA, 16506 is my address. And so don't take this the wrong way. It's kind of 2 parts. It might not seem like you know where I'm going at first. I was there when the Montessori school had the drop-off times, which I would be a little concerned about the cars going around the entire block and blocking driveways. And so, you know, that's a thought of mine. But I actually am gonna take the side that I would also reinforce. I would rather have less parking spaces and more green space across the street. I actually find that, I think everybody in the neighborhood, I can speak for them, that we value that more, you know, as the residents of the area. We enjoy the amenities available to us, especially the rare green space that we have, and I take my kids there quite a bit across the street. So ideally, we have not more parking spaces taking all that up as well. So to reinforce, I would I would rather have people in front of my house for 5 minutes in the morning than to take the valuable lawn. That's all. I just wanted you to hear that so you understand.
Great.
A person representing the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay. I know the other one might be a little more involved. We're going to take just a quick 10 minute break and come back. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
There's like, oh.
Freaking exhausted. Shouldn't be, so like I said, it was just like last night, like 7 o'clock, I just started feeling a little bit, whatever. Oh, thanks.
We got plenty.
So I go when I go to work and I'm like, it's like 2 o'clock and I'm like, man, my head's like a fog. Let me go home and work from home this afternoon. You know, my wife's like, why don't you lay down for a little bit? 5:15, I woke up. I never nap. You know what I mean? It was just like, yeah, not good.
Thank you.
I was,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is there gin in here?
Wasn't the Olive Garden the owners of
Yeah.
Red Lobster?
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Oh. Yeah, I don't know what the situation is there. Appeal number 25-09, Sheets for property located at 2040 Edinburgh Road, seeking a use variance for a convenience store large in the C2 Regional Commercial District.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Ryan Wotus. That's W-O-T-U-S. Mailing address is 437 Grant Street, Suite 1806, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania 15219. And before I begin the presentation, just one quick housekeeping matter I wanted to deal with up front, which was to go ahead and submit the property owner's authorization form, which authorized us to submit this application on behalf of them.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
In addition, I do have a presentation packet that I'd like to hand out for each of you.
Excuse me, could we also get a copy of the packet?
Absolutely. I have a whole bunch of them here.
Thank you.
How many do you need?
And a copy of the authorization too, 2 copies if possible. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Well, good evening again, after we worked through all that process. So before you tonight for consideration is a variance seeking the use of the property located at 2040 Edinburgh Road, located here in the township as a new convenience store with accessory fueling. Pursuant to the Mill Creek Township zoning ordinance, the use as proposed here would be classified as a convenience store large, which is a retail business establishment with a gross floor area of greater than 2,500 square feet, but less than 10,000 square feet, with a vehicle fuel station that consists of more than 4 fuel islands or more than 8 fuel pumps. So we will walk through a conceptual site plan which identifies that there are greater than 4 fuel islands and greater than 8 fuel pumps, which moves us into the definition of this, and we also would fall between the 2,500 square feet and 10,000 square feet. The site itself is located within the C2 Regional Commercial Zoning District. Pursuant to your ordinance, that use is not a use that's permitted within that district, and so we're seeking a variance to go ahead and operate this use on this site. On the first page, you see that this is a prototypical sheets store. We provided that to go ahead and just give you an idea of what ultimately would be proposed for this site if this variance were approved. On the second slide, went ahead and provided a site overview. The subject property you will see generally in the center of that image. It's in a red rectangle identified as 2040 Edinburgh Road. The site itself, although it has an address on Edinburgh Road, it fronts along Interchange Road as well. So it sits on the northeast corner of Interchange and Edinburgh Road. I'm sure the vast majority of this board is very familiar with this site. This location is the gateway to the Mill Creek Mall complex, in addition to multiple outdoor out-parcel retail centers, restaurants, and other hotels. And there also is, as we move along the image, there's a Planet Fitness to the east as you get closer to Route 19. To the south of Interchange Road is also a large area of additional commercial uses, which again consists of residential or restaurant, retail, supermarket, and other hotel uses. Within this complex, I believe there's a total of 5 hotels. So there are some other uses that are within the neighborhood that operate within with a 24-hour time period, including Planet Fitness and the other hotels. If we can go to the third slide, please. This just gives you a different view of the site itself. This is, again, the center of the image is the existing structure which formerly was housed the Red Lobster on that site. Again, Interchange Road runs from left to right on that image in the center there. You can see the Candlewood Suites Hotel to the right of the subject property and the Mill Creek Mall complex in the background. Slide. This is just a street view image of the existing facility. They are standing here at the corner of Edinburgh and Interchange Road looking toward the site. Again, Mill Creek Mall to the background, Candlewood Suites to the right of that image. Next slide. So to give you a little bit of an overview of the site itself. So the property consists of approximately 1.79 acres in size, which is a little larger than your typical standalone out parcel. The issue that comes up based upon the size of this site is because it's 1.8 acres in size, it's larger than what you would typically have for a standalone restaurant that's more of a current design and configuration that you have. So if you look at other restaurants that are located within the vicinity of this site, much smaller in size in terms of overall acreage associated with the parcel that they've been developed upon. In addition, it's also too small to go ahead and construct what you see as the other strip retail centers. Obviously, the mall site is substantially larger than what we're looking at here. So it puts this parcel in basically a situation where it's too large to go ahead and construct a new retail facility or restaurant facility, and it's too small to go ahead and construct what you'd consider an out parcel retail center, which also then goes ahead and creates a hardship for the appropriate reuse of this site. As I noted before, this is an out parcel to Mill Creek Mall, and as everyone here is aware, super regional mall, 3rd largest mall in Pennsylvania. The structure was originally constructed back in 1987. This was a restaurant-specific build-out. So when I say that, that means there is obviously kitchen equipment, the electrical, plumbing, grease traps, everything associated with that development was specific to a restaurant use. And what that means is that it creates a substantial hardship again in terms of the reuse of this site. So you have an existing improvement that's on there. It consists of, the restaurant's 8,509 square feet in size. Substantially larger than what you would typically see now from a restaurant operator, which runs approximately 2,000 to 5,000 square feet in size. And moving back to this is a restaurant-specific design, it makes it very difficult for the reuse of that. Because if you go to subdivide that, for instance, or build a demising wall to make smaller spaces for a restaurant, you now have to create 2 kitchens. You now have to create multiple bathrooms. It becomes cost prohibitive to basically reutilize what the existing site is. And so any other use that would need to go onto this site would require the demolition of this site and the redevelopment. And as you're all also aware, that Red Lobster ceased their operations there on May 22nd of 2024. So we're coming up on basically a year since that property has sat vacant. Once Red Lobster had ceased their operations, CBRE was then engaged to go ahead and market the site to go ahead and see if they could find a reuse or redevelopment of the property. The property then was listed for lease on June 22nd of 2024 by CBRE and has been continuously marketed since that date. In speaking with CBRE, though, they have had no interest from any other user for this site except for Sheetz to come onto this property. That includes looking for other restaurant tenants, looking for other retail users, looking for other uses that otherwise would comply with the underlying zoning within the C2 district. And again, this is the only use that has come forward as part of that redevelopment. And I did want to also submit record the brochure just showing, evidencing the ongoing marketing of the site. Let me see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's enough. Ongoing marketing of the site by CBRE.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So as I discussed at the beginning here, I'd also like to go ahead. We have provided for the board some conceptual site redevelopment plans and then some renderings, again, just to give you an idea of what we're showing, with the purpose of showing that this is in context with the surrounding built neighborhood that exists within this commercial development. So with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Brian Rusci. If you could state your name for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Brian Rusci. I'm with Sheetz Incorporated. I'm the engineering and permit project manager for this project. Looking at the conceptual plan here, and it's conceptual, but it's pretty far along in what we'd propose to do at this site. We're proposing a 6,139 square foot convenience store with 5 multi-product dispensers, fuel pumps. That would be 10 fueling positions. There is a drive-through proposed here, no car wash. As far as access, we're not proposing any access, no dive-ins off Interchange Road. We would just have a right-in, right-out, similar to what's there for the Red Lobster. We'd have a right-in, right-out coming off Edinburgh Road. And then there's I don't know if it has a road name or not, there's a drive between us and the next building back. That's where we would have our full access into the facility.
Okay. You wouldn't mind going through and just talking about the prototypical renderings of the site? The next page.
So this is our new concept, our truss canopy that you see there in the first page in the top corner. It also shows the Sheetz building in the background. As you can see, we use the same materials on the building, on the canopy columns, the dumpster area enclosures, monuments. All the materials marry up to each other. You can see the back of the store, what it would look like, the drive-through, and then just another view of the store here. And there's just blow-ups of each there. But this is just a general rendering. But this is architecturally, what it's going to look like. And if anybody's familiar with the sheets down at Erie, 38th and Liberty, it would be pretty similar to this.
And Brian, in terms of how this is constructed, these are full brick facades with stone that goes all the way around all four ends of the building. Is that correct?
Correct.
And do some of those elements carry to the canopy and refuse container?
Yes.
And again, in terms of the total square footage, you had indicated, I believe it was 6,000.
6,139 square feet.
And so that's smaller than the existing Red Lobster's, the former Red Lobster building that's on the site.
Correct.
In your position with Sheets, could you approximate how many Sheets developments you've been involved in since you've been employed by Sheets?
I've been at Sheets for, it's coming up on 4 years. Over 10 to 15 that have been constructed.
And prior to being employed by Sheets, who were you employed by?
Prior to Sheets, I worked for a consulting firm for 17 months as a principal doing site development. And prior to that, just commercial development my whole career.
Okay, so throughout your career, you've been involved with and generally involved in the commercial development of retail sites.
Yes.
And based upon, and you're familiar with this location, is that right?
Yes.
And are you familiar as well with what I would consider the greater Mill Creek Mall complex?
Yes.
And that consists of the hotels, restaurants, other retail.
Hotels, the Sportsman's Warehouse, the Planet Fitness, the hotels, you know, Cheddar's, yeah, all the commercial businesses in this general corridor out to Peach Street.
And based upon your understanding of the configuration of this property, would it be your position that there are existing hardships associated with the reuse and redevelopment of the parcel for uses that are permitted within the C2 district?
Yes.
And we had talked a little bit about the uses that are in the nearby vicinity. Would you agree as well that the proposed use would not alter the essential characteristics of the neighborhood as this is a continuation of that commercial use?
Yes, it's not going to affect, it's not going to alter the neighborhood. Actually, it's going to, you know, the new Sheets, they're very nice facilities. I think it would accentuate, you know, this corridor into Mill Creek Mall.
Yeah, so if anything, this would this provide an amenity to the public and some more support those existing uses?
Yes.
And based upon your understanding of how Sheets operates and the existing operation of the neighborhood nearby, would you agree that this wouldn't create any detrimental impacts beyond those, the uses that are otherwise permitted within the C2 zoning district?
Correct, no detrimental impacts.
And because this use is similar to those uses, would you agree that this is the minimum relief that's required to go ahead and permit the redevelopment of the site?
Yes.
I don't have anything further. We're happy to address any questions or comments you may have. I think, well, I guess before I close out, I believe this was submitted to the board, but we did have one letter of support that was submitted on behalf of Cafaro Peach Creek Joint Venture Partnership, Mill Creek Plaza Company Limited Partnership, and PA Eastway Incorporated, which are affiliates of the Cafaro company that own the Mill Creek Mall complex. I don't know if
received it.
You did receive that?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was received and into the record.
Is there obviously you did a site survey of the entire area, I'm assuming, looking for different sites. Are there any other sites that you could find that would work in strict compliance with the zoning code?
Are you asking, do we look at other sites in addition to this one in a general area?
Yes.
I'd have to defer to our real estate guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, you want to go up? Could you state your name for the record, please?
Henry Phones.
Can you also give your business address?
5700 6th Avenue, Altoona, Pennsylvania.
I'm sorry. What's your address?
5700 6th Avenue, Altoona, Pennsylvania. Business address.
And HC, what is your position with Sheets?
Senior real estate site selector.
And have you been involved in this site selection of the proposed redevelopment that we're discussing this evening?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And I believe the question that was posed was, has Sheets looked at other locations within the township that otherwise would comply with these underlying zoning?
Yeah, I mean, we've looked at all kinds of properties up here in the past, but
Sure.
yeah, this one we think is one of the most appropriate sites for a new Sheets facility.
Do you have other Sheets and other locations that would be in a similar setting to this?
Yeah, we have over 750 stores.
Right, but I'm saying at the entrance to a shopping center on this sort of facility?
Yeah, I mean, we have other stores that are similar to this, yes.
Okay. Matt, what zoning district would allow this type of structure use?
This would be the convenience store large. That would be the MU, I believe it's the MU2 district. I apologize. It's the
It's the C3.
Yes, C3 permits it as a permitted use by right. MU2 permits it as a conditional use.
Right, and as far as permitted by right, am I correct, the only area of that is Route 8990?
Correct.
Yeah. And then you said, what is it with by right? I'm sorry, that's by right, but with?
In the MU2 district, it would be conditional use.
Okay. And this is C2, correct?
Correct.
That's what it says on the zoning app, okay. Okay, you have questions?
Brian, would you again tell me, set forth again each hardship you believe exists with this property?
So there's a few different hardships. So talking about the actual site itself, it's 1.78 acres in size. And so one of the main drivers of this is not that that in looking at the standard that's associated with this, is we don't have to show that it basically can't be utilized for anything that otherwise is permitted in the C2 or that is valueless, right? It's a question of can it actually be functionally developed for that site. In discussions with other operators with CBRE, the discussion has come back and the feedback that has come back is that the site is too large for a separate restaurant operator. On the flip side, it's too small to go ahead and redevelop this for a strip retail center, something else that would otherwise be permitted, or the uses that would otherwise be permitted within the C2 district. The other part that's associated with that is the existing condition of the site, meaning it's constructed by an existing facility that's, I had the numbers, it's a little over 8,500 square feet in size. Based upon the development of that site, the restaurant-specific outlay of that and design of it does not permit itself to be able to be reutilized in its current condition. No one's looking for a restaurant of that size. Again, the average size that's coming back is between 2,000 to 5,000 square feet in size. Because this was built as a standalone one operator, it can't be reasonably reutilized, that structure meaning, can't be reutilized for two operators, for instance, to create a smaller space that they could operate within. And so as a result of that, basically, the only types of uses that otherwise are permitted in the C2 have shown no interest in going ahead and redeveloping this site as it's currently configured.
When you say that it's too large, I mean, that's not truly, if anything, it would be a financial hardship because you're saying it's too large, so maybe you would have residual land that would just be grass. It's not like you can't, it's not like there's a statute that you have to fill a percentage of the property or things like that. It would be a financial.
That's correct. So no, well, I would say it's correct that I don't need to fill it all, but I would say it's not a financial issue associated with this necessarily, but there is case law that does provide, though, that unnecessary hardship can be associated with redevelopment or reuse of a site at a prohibitive expense. And so what I would say is what is being proposed by Sheets is the only one that's showing a redevelopment of this thing not at a prohibitive expense. So otherwise, CBRE would have had interest. We would have had other users that want to use the site, but it functionally can't be utilized in its current configuration, absent an outlay that no other user would make.
Okay.
Ryan, where's your evidence for a prohibitive expense? You're saying that, but where's your evidence?
So the evidence is that we've been advised, so this is CBRE has been advised that by any user that has come to look at this site, once they understand the outlay that would be required to go ahead and redevelop it, they have had no interest in it. So they have marketed this for over a year at this point. They've marketed for uses that are permitted within the zoning district, and they've had no users that want to come forward with that. And based upon what has been provided to me by CBRE, it all comes down to the financial aspects of demolition of the site. You'd have to reorient utilities, everything else associated with that to redevelop this and create a new building or new structure on there that could house a use. And there's been zero interest associated with that because the expense is so high.
Any other hardship?
What really comes down to the size of the site and the existing improvements and the costs that would, the prohibitive expense associated with the redevelopment of that. And I could cite too, I do have a case here, which is Nowicki versus Zoning Hearing Board of the Borough of Monaca. And the site is 91A.3D 287. It's a 2020 or 2014 case that talks to the prohibitive expense aspect of what should be considered with respect to unnecessary hardship.
You said you've been advised about these expenses. You're not going to give us a table or anything that sets forth.
So what I would say is it had never gotten to the point where you actually went, put the actual final numbers together to reconstruct, but it's based upon ballpark estimates that have been substantially in excess of what would be required. So it never moved to the second layer of consideration going, okay, we think that we could demo this for X amount. We could reconstruct a building for this amount and get to an area that someone would then go, we feel comfortable with moving to the next stage, providing this to an engineer, architect, contractor, and getting actual firm numbers back because basically the expenses were just too high that it didn't even move to that second layer of consideration.
You don't even have a ballpark estimate.
That's correct.
The only thing we're relying upon are your representations about these expenses, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. And I'm under oath.
And as far as it not making financial sense, that's based upon the current valuation and sales price of the property.
So it would be based upon, this is actually a ground lease that is being proposed by Sheets.
Well,
so
lease price of the property. If the proper size for property is 1 acre, and this is because it's 1.78 acres, if it was priced at 1 acre because either 0.7 is residual, and then the pro formas work.
But what also comes into the cost of, so on a land ground lease deal, the user is ultimately the one who pays the costs for the demo, redevelopment, and all those costs associated with it. So there's a substantial expense, but Sheets has the ability to go ahead and make those investments into this property. A lot of other users just frankly don't.
Now, Ryan, if this goes up on an appeal, you would agree what you told us is not evidence, right? In fact, you weren't even sworn in. You did not stand up and get sworn in.
I did stand up and get sworn in.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay. So you're saying us as evidence, as attorney for Sheets?
There actually is a case on this. I don't have it in front of me because I didn't know this would become an issue. There is Commonwealth Court case that has determined that testimony of a lawyer in front of a zoning hearing board is evidence. Yes. And I'm happy to provide that afterwards.
Now, I'm sure you're very familiar with the 5 criteria in the MPC, Municipal Planning Code. Number 4 is granting variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare of the surrounding area. Now, all of us here, including myself, who live in Mill Creek Township, are well aware of the maelstrom around the Mill Creek Mall.
The what, I'm sorry?
Of the traffic and everything around Mill Creek Mall. But this is gonna, within that area, this is not gonna have cars constantly pulling in and out, getting gas, getting their subs, whatever. Is there any kind of study done by Sheetz about the safety of this with respect to the mall?
We haven't done any traffic impact studies yet. This is the first step. If, if we would get this approved, then the next step, we'd move into our due diligence phase, and we would get a traffic impact study completed. However, I don't know that the Edinboro Road going into the mall is a state road, so we wouldn't require any permits from PennDOT. We're not proposing anything off Interchange Road. The traffic, we anticipate that we'll be collecting a lot of pass-by traffic of customers already going to the mall or customers already leaving the mall. But we would do a traffic impact study and present to Mill Creek Township.
Yeah, and can you talk about, just for everyone's edification, I guess, in terms of, explain what does pass-by traffic mean in terms of the operation of a Sheetz store or other gasoline service stations?
Yeah, and I'm not a traffic engineer, I'm not an expert, I'm just a site development guy. My understanding, pass-by trip is, perhaps the Sheetz wasn't the main destination. They're going to the mall, they get off 79, they're going to the mall, they see a Sheetz, they need gas, or they're hungry, they want to get an MTO. Same way, they leave the mall or some of these out parcel businesses, they want to fuel up, they're hungry, they want to go MTO, they want to use whatever. So, it's not to say that all the traffic will be pass-bys, but we anticipate a lot, a good percentage would be. But again, until we can complete the traffic impact study, we can't say definitively one way or the other. I'm just speculating. But we would work to scope this out with the township and get their approval.
And if I could just add briefly too, is the latest map that I was able to pull from the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation with respect to traffic volume that travels the corridor of interchange. This is from 2023, shows basically 25,000 vehicles a day already are located on that corridor. In terms of when traffic study's been done for comparable sites for Sheetz, even your peak PM and PM trips are substantially less than 25,000. You're maybe closer to 400, 500. So in terms of the traffic capacity that's already there, substantially less than the trips that are already currently being generated on Interchange Road.
And I'd like to add, as far as safety, Sheetz takes safety into great concern, not only for our customers, but also for our employees. This would be a 24/7 open facility. It's going to be a well-lit facility. The circulation, the access is going to be, well-designed to make it easy for our customers. If we need to provide pedestrian access, we do. But safety is always one of our utmost concerns. Like I said, not only for our customers, but for our employees.
Has there been any investigation into putting in the fuel tanks?
An investigation into putting in.
Is that a suitable place? Any safety concerns? Not the location with the fuel tanks?
Again, I'm not a petroleum engineer, but where we are showing our proposed USTs, if you're looking at the conceptual plan, you can see where we're putting the proposed building, and then there's that big rectangle that shows the pumps. That would be our fueling area. The USTs would be beyond that.
Just for clarification, so he's looking at the conceptual site
Yes.
redevelopment page.
Yeah.
It says that at the top there. So you're looking at the overview of the proposed site.
Yeah.
Just so we try to
Yeah,
orient you guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and as the crow flies, the USTs would be located on the northern part of our site. And, the USTs would be permitted through I don't handle that. We have a petroleum department that handles the UST permitting and installation in accordance with all the federal regulations.
And in terms of the development of this site, Brian, the Sheetz currently own, operate, maintain stations similar to this that are adjacent to residential properties?
Yes, we're adjacent to residential properties, like immediately adjacent. We operate and, with adjacent commercial uses as well.
I'm okay. Okay, I think that's all we have for now.
Okay, thank you.
Township, are you asking questions of them, or how do you want to, okay.
Yeah, let me start with questions for them and then
Okay.
Let me get out of your way here.
I'm not sure which of you are best to answer these questions, so I'll throw them out there and see who takes them. Would you agree that the Red Lobster closed approximately mid-May of 2024?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And when did CBRE get engaged to market the property?
They were marketed shortly thereafter, and let me go back to that slide. Give me one moment, please. Yeah, they were engaged shortly thereafter, and in June 22nd of 2024, so 1 month later after operations had ceased, the property was then listed for reuse, redevelopment, release.
Okay. And so it's at this point, it's been on the market for less than a year?
That's correct.
Okay. And do you know how long typically in Erie commercial properties are on the market before they're either released or sold?
I would say I don't know the average, but I would say it's site specific. But with respect to this location, I would think there would be very high demand based upon the location of it.
And you had indicated that the lot's too big for other types of development. Is that what the testimony that Sheets was offering?
So we were offering for the purpose of stating with respect to restaurant use specifically. So your typical footprint for a restaurant use is much smaller than 1.79 acres, which can be seen by other developments that are nearby, some of which are south of Interchange, others to the north, so Arby's, for instance, much smaller footprint, much smaller lot size.
And is it Sheets' position that none of the 31 uses allowed under the C2 would be appropriate for this size of lot?
That's correct, and that there's been no interest shown by any of those types of uses.
And that's solely based on the fact that it hasn't been sold or leased to one of those 31 uses in the last 10 or 11 months?
It's partially that, but it's also the fact that some of those uses have come forward and shown interest, and then based upon that prohibitive expense of redeveloping the site.
And that's based on your representation of what someone who's not here at the hearing said, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you don't have any data to back that statement up, is that correct?
I do not have any data.
Okay. And curiously, if you look at your handout here from CBRE, I guess we're looking at page 3, which is an overview that shows the site. In fact, immediately if you're looking at to the left of that site is a Starbucks shop, and there's, I think, 3 or 4 or 5 other different small stores in there. And would you agree with me that that would fit within the footprint of that 1.79 acres?
Well, so I don't want to, I'm not trying to not answer your question. The only thing I don't know is sometimes that could be a ground lease on a larger parcel that would be a part of the strip center. Typically, that's how Starbucks does their deals. So what I would say to you is hypothetically speaking, you could fit a Starbucks on this site, but it, again, won't work because of how that Starbucks has been developed.
I'm just saying in terms of that building size would fit within that footprint of the 1.79 acres.
Sure.
Okay. And would you agree with me that because of the nature of how the Red Lobster building was constructed, any new use of that property would effectively require you to demolish that building?
We would, yeah, most would probably require it unless you had another Red Lobster that wanted to come in there and take that footprint.
So that's not unique to Sheets' development. It's any development of that parcel would in fact effectively require a demolition.
Yeah, but it's specific to that parcel, correct?
Right. There was testimony regarding the essential, it wouldn't change the essential character of the neighborhood. Do you recall that? And I think, I'm sorry, I forgot your
I'm
name.
Brian.
Brian. What analysis did you do to come up with that determination?
Just based on visual observation and what Sheets is going to bring to the table with our type of development. You know, our architectural elements, our landscaping, our lighting.
I think that's all I have for you guys, and I would call Matt Waldinger then.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Do you want us to slide back, or?
If you, yeah, I guess if you could maybe slide down and let Matt.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Again, Matt, if you could, for the purposes of the record, identify yourself and your position.
Matthew Waldinger, I'm the Director of Planning and Development from Mill Creek Township.
And you handed a number of exhibits to the board. If you could walk through those exhibits for us.
Sure. The first page, the top that I gave you with all the colors on it, that's sampling of the Mill Creek Township zoning map. In the lower right-hand corner, outlined in dark blue, is the site in question. The red on the map that is east of I-79 is the C2 Commercial District. And then you will see just west of I-79, the blue color is the MU2 zoning district, where Mr. Puz earlier indicated that convenience store large is a conditional use that would be permitted in that district. That district begins approximately 2,500 feet from the site that we are looking at today.
Okay, yep, please continue.
Okay. If you could flip that page over, on the back of that page with the zoning map is a closer view of the site in question, again outlined in blue. Would like to point out that although, as mentioned, both Interchange and Edinburgh roads to the south of the site are PennDOT roads, the access to this property is entirely through private property. The parcel marked A is a driveway that leads to the Mill Creek Mall. It is owned by Cafaro Peach Creek Ventures. You know, although it does look and sometimes function as a public road, it is privately owned and it is a private drive. Immediately to the north of the site, parcel marked B that has the access that it was indicated would be the main full motion access, is not on the property that the proposed Sheets would occupy. It is actually on the property of the Arby's restaurant that is immediately to the north. And again, it is a publicly owned drive. That means that any traffic that would visit the store has to travel over private property to do so. Not only are we talking about the cars and trucks that normally would visit, but also any deliveries, including fuel tankers, would also have to access through these private roadways, which does lead to some concern to the township as far as how the traffic is going to flow through these private properties to get to this site. And then lastly, on the final page that I gave you, and I believe this was brought up as part of the earlier testimony, you can see in that private drive, I did highlight with a cloud that there's a median for a portion of that, and then there is a left turn lane that goes into the plaza that has the Starbucks among many other shops. And so there would not be any left turns out or into the site in the middle driveway that is actually on their property. All of those all that traffic would have to come in through the Arby's property and then enter into the Sheetz site. You know, just would like to say that although we're happy to host Sheetz in Mill Creek Township, we're happy that they're looking to locate here. We were proud that the first Sheetz in the entire region was the one on 26th and Asbury, which is they're now looking to reconstruct. We would love to have them come back to the township with a new store, but we feel like there are appropriately zoned locations very close to this one that would not require a variance and would not require us to change our zoning ordinance just for the sake of convenience. So I would just urge the board to consider that and potentially direct Sheetz to a more appropriate, properly zoned location.
I don't think we have anything further. Unless there's questions. Yeah.
Hi, Matt. How are you this evening?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
So I just wanted to direct your attention to, excuse me, the first page.
Yep.
You have there.
Sounds good.
I would love to go to bed.
Yes.
So you had indicated here to the right-hand side, we see it in the red, that's the C2, is that correct?
That is correct.
And I'm colorblind, but it's like a light blue, right?
Yes.
Is the
Yep.
MU, right?
MU2.
And that would be, if a convenience store large were proposed to go in that location, that would be a conditional use, is that right?
Yes.
And when I look at the overall, sort of the aerial here, it appears that everything besides what's marked as 733003 and 733002 all appear to have improvements on them, is that right?
I would not say all of them. 001 also is vacant.
That's small, okay.
Yes, and then you're correct, all of them do. There are some existing non-conforming single-family homes on the south side of Zimmerly Road near where Zook Road is.
What's, excuse me again, what's the topography of 003 and 002 as it comes towards 79 off Interchange Road?
They are both lower than Interchange Road, more along the lines of the actual level of or elevation of I-79 main line, not the ramps or Interchange Road.
Okay, so there's some topographical change as it goes down to 79, is that right?
Correct.
And it looks like, it's faint to see, but it looks like there's a creek, Walnut Creek, that flows through at least, actually both parcels, is that right?
I know it definitely does on the north parcel. And yeah, I believe it does. Yep, you're correct. It does flow through parts of both.
Okay, and you would agree that depending on the topography, but a creek going through a parcel would limit potential redevelopment, is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't hear that.
You didn't, the last question?
Yeah, because yeah, we had a call. Go ahead. Yeah.
I just said that you would agree, though, potential changes in topography and a creek throwing through a site would limit its future developability. Is that right?
And my answer was absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nikki Cully. I am representing Chase Hotel Group, which is the owner and operator of the Candlewood Suites, which is right next door at 2020 Edinburgh Road to this parcel. We are speaking just in favor of the rezoning for the convenience store. We are a 24-hour business, being a hotel. We have had safety concerns in the past, being one of the only 24 hours in that exact little area, as well as dim lighting. And then after Red Lobster has left, they have fully abandoned the building. We've had struggles with landscaping keep up as well, that the Cafaros did take over from that. We think that this is going to help the tourism in Mill Creek Township because most of our people come from Canada, and we house a lot of nurses as well that are staying here long term. A convenience store would be great to be right there for them and within walking distance as well. And then we do have a lot of pass-by traffic that comes to the area, so concerns of safety have always been there, but Sheetz does do a great job, and they do light up the area very well, which would help our safety concerns in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Good evening. Caleb Heifer at 5070 Tramelak. There are multiple issues with this plan and what Sheetz has presented this evening. The first one is the argument that this is a unique site due to its size and that only a gas station can fill it is really weak at best. That's asking for a variance for a hardship. If another business came to you and said, well, there aren't any bites, we're an exotic dance club, would you extend a variance? That would be a resounding no. The argument that there hasn't been any bites.
I apologize for the interruption, though. I don't know the location of the site that your address that you identified for standing purposes. Is it located in the vicinity of this property, or where is that located?
What's that?
The address that you had indicated that you reside at or you have an office at, is that located within the vicinity of this site?
It's in Mill Creek Township.
Is it close to the site that's proposed here
No,
today?
not at all. I'm not a neighbor.
Okay. I would just, for the purpose of the record, I would object to his standing for the purpose of this hearing.
Please continue.
I don't believe he is standing, but I understand you can let him testify, yeah.
I'd like to finish my testimony as a...
It's just a procedural aspect, nothing meant by it other than just protecting my client.
We're not in a court of law here. We're in a public forum. A lot of the other arguments that were made are equally weak. We not only talked about the size of the property. You asked the question about what are the comps. Well, the answer was we have 750 properties, and we have some that are at the entrance to a strip plaza. Where is there a gas station at the entrance to a major shopping mall? Is there one at the entrance to Ross Park Mall in McCandless Township, as an example? And the reason why that matters, the solicitor had already brought up the issue of traffic. And the answer, again, was, well, it was a restaurant. There was traffic in, traffic out. That doesn't add up. Red Lobster was a sit-down restaurant. So you'd have people coming in at mealtime, around lunchtime, around dinner. It is not a gas station with traffic flowing in and out on a continuous basis. The other argument, adding gas stations to this community there are so many elements of the strategic plan for Mill Creek Township that this could be arguably, it's one step forward, one step back. This is a gateway, and that was an exact quote from Sheetz, this is the gateway to the Mill Creek Mall. And we're adding something that, could any of you reasonably say that a gas station is an aesthetically pleasing addition to the community? And the final thing I'll say, We've gone down this route with Sheets before. The township was talking about, we welcome Sheets over at the corner of Asbury, and that's fine. But they are putting up, this is their standard design, gas stations that are appropriate for the side of freeways. This is historical fact. Mill Creek did all the wrangling with the gas station that went up to the entrance of Presque Isle. That was a complete affront to everybody in this room with their initial presentation for that station. The canopy heights, these are not appropriate stations for an entrance to a shopping mall and a major tourist attraction for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you please speak to the access that Mr. Waldinger brought up? The fact that it is a private driveway in, and albeit it acts as a roadway, we understand that, but you mentioned that your main point of egress is on, we're going to call parcel B, Arby's, and that's their private property. That's not a roadway.
I'm just pulling the
sure
the one that you had shown. So as it's currently laid out right now, with respect to parcel B, there is currently access that exists from the Red Lobster onto that parcel. What I would say to you, if this went to a land development aspect, we would be researching title, and I'm sure there's a cross-access easement that permits that, because that curb cut wouldn't exist there as it does today to permit access back onto Edinburgh Road there.
Onto Edinburgh Road, but onto the Arby's where your main source of traffic.
No, I'm sorry, that's what I mean. If I look page north.
Yes.
You can see a curb cut on the right-hand side of the existing parcel, the Red Lobster, we'll call it the Red Lobster parcel. There's a curb cut on the north there.
Oh.
That permits that access onto that drive and brings you back out to Edinburgh. So what I would say is, I mean, there's existing access that's there. This hasn't gotten to the land development perspective where we would be, going through, bringing plans back to Planning Commission and otherwise. But at that point, it would be evaluated whether or not there, and I would say it's more likely than not there's an existing cross-access easement across those properties. There are actually more, there may be a declaration of covenants that's recorded for this entire, all these properties, because you can see multiple areas of cross-access over and across these parcels. So the Arby's parcel to the right has cross-access, parcel to the north has cross-access, parcel all the way to the far right of that image has cross-access as well. So what I would anticipate, this is probably laid out in a manner that you have cross-access over all the parcels.
Okay, Mark?
I think the township solicitor has some questions.
Yeah.
If I could address the access issue, just so we have a clean record. There is a reciprocal easement that does exist. It's from 1986, and I have a copy here I can share with the board, but it does appear to grant some sort of access among those various properties. It's not the clearest of documents, so there's a lot of Party A and Party B and, so forth, but there would appear to be some sort of document that reflects that. But I thought just to make sure the board didn't head in a direction that was inconsistent with what might be the actual facts.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Joel, do you have anything?
None, no further questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience would like to speak on this? Okay.
Nothing further from us. Thank you for your time this evening. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. We're going to take a recess, and we will re-adjourn here. Like we said, many decisions are made tonight, but not always, so you're welcome to stay. If not, you can call the township after 8:30 tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Okay, let the record show we reconvened at 9:35. On appeal number 25-05, Bill Patterson, do I have a motion?
I have a motion to deny.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor of denial?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Appeal number 25-06, Haysite Reinforced Plastics, do I have a motion?
I move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second that motion.
All in favor of approving?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Appeal number 25-07, Mark Platiter, 913 Montpelier Avenue. Do I have a motion?
A motion to approve.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Appeal number 25-08, Eden Center LLC. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I will second. All in favor of approving?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Appeal number 25-09, Sheets at 2040 Edinburgh Road. I make a motion to deny the appeal. The variance, I'm sorry. Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor of denying? Aye. All opposed? So moved. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I do. I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.